All right. And today joining us, we have V once again. And for the first time, we have Vosh. Welcome, guys.
Absolutely
Hello.
delighted.
So, Vosh, you seem to be very confident that there's a lot of meat on the bone here between you two
I mean,
that we can pick at.
I'm more left-leaning than most left-leaning people in my country, so I'm reasonably certain I can find some things to disagree with here.
Okay. And V, where on the spectrum would you say you would fall if you had to decide?
The last time I took the political compass test, I was exactly on the middle of the axis, neither left nor right. I am the green Jedi of politics, the gray Jedi. So we'll see.
All right.
Damn,
Well,
now I'm fucking insecure about my intro now. God damn, I just got showed up.
I mean, the intro's really long for one thing. Sometimes I'm like, holy shit, I need to find a way to shorten this. But there's so much information I just want to pack in there at the beginning.
Are you not the green Jedi of information?
I am not the green Jedi of information at all. No. So I think since we kind of, before we went on the air, we were touching on the trans athlete thing. We'll talk about that for a little while, but we won't spend too much time on that. Then we'll move on to anything else. So V, I'm guessing you're against. No, you said it would at least be entertaining. That's what you said, right?
Well, I show you some pictures. I don't know if you can put them for the chat to see.
Yeah,
let me bring you up this one. Like, to me, it's incredibly entertaining. See, a lot of people enjoy sports where there's some balance between the teams. No, fuck that shit. I like to see one team just completely demolished. Like Germany and Brazil during FIFA, 7-1. That's the shit that I like. And when I look at my favorite trans athlete, Miss Hannah Mounsey, that let me show you the picture right here. All right, can you see that? Looks like a world boss or something, Yeah, she looks like that bitch should have its sound effects.
Oh, you're going to debate about some stuff tonight.
Okay, I have to turn off the text-to-speech. I forgot to do that. Sorry.
Oh no!
I'll turn that off and just. Yeah.
You don't want people coming in talking about pounding their tight eggy hole while we're
No. Yeah. We really have to turn that off. Where is it? Here it is.
So normally when I look at a woman, I feel like I could beat her up decidedly, right?
Yeah.
Like this
I don't know.
a little questionable.
Let me show you another one. How do I manage to open the chat? Because it seems that since you started the thing on Skype,
there's like a, how do I say it? A bubble, like in a comic book bubble you can click on. There's an icon that looks like that.
Oh, okay, now I see it, right. All right, show this picture, right? Like, she looks like a world boss. So my point is, I would pay good money to see my favorite Hannah Mounsey play against any team you want. So, yeah, I'm for it. I'm not against it, right? Like, I think it's good entertainment.
All right. Okay. It's time for me to slide on in here, okay? I'm ready for it. I'm lubed up, okay? Right. So here's the fucking meme here, okay? Whether we like to, I don't know, pay attention to it or not, trans people are an ever more present minority in our community that does experience some pretty substantial discrimination. A lot of those trans people, just by nature of statistics, are going to be athletes. And unfortunately, this issue is often used to reinforce the idea that trans athletes are somehow, particularly trans women, it's women, that trans women are not real women, that they are brutish or physiologically incompatible with the requirements of women's sports, which before, say, a couple of years ago, people were under the impression were run pretty much exclusively for cisgender women. So, I don't know how much meat there is in this specifically, because it seems like the world has already moved on from the question. The Olympics has been allowing transgender women to participate in their athletics since 2003, which is before even Caitlyn Jenner came out. So they're on the fucking ball on that one. But part of their requirements for allowing a transgender individual to participate in their sports is that they must have undergone sex reassignment surgery, not something I necessarily agree with. They must show legal recognition of their gender. And third, they must have undergone hormone therapy for an appropriate length of time, recommended 2 years. So from my studies, that's a length of time sufficient to basically obliterate pretty much all of the physiological advantages an XY person is typically endowed with over an XX person. So if they want to participate in sports, then yeah, hell, why not? Women's sports for women.
V, any disagreements there?
No, as I mentioned, like I'm all for it because it's entertainment. I would point out though that the development of the bone structure, like men have stronger bones than women, happens during puberty. So I don't know what studies you read, but if, for example, a person has been a man for, I don't know, all the way up to age 22, and then wants to take estrogen to transition, he's still going to have like higher bone density than any other woman.
From the consensus that I have seen from sports doctors who study this issue, it seems as though the variance in bone density after a certain length of time on feminizing hormones falls within an acceptable variance of what one would expect from a cisgender woman. I mean, let me tell you, if you want to stay beefy, them fucking estrogen pills are the last thing you want to take. I've got trans friends, okay? They turn into little babies, soft skin, weak. It fucking hits you. But yeah, that's from what I've seen from experts in the field, and it seems like a lot of the arguments against like trans women participating in sports are super fucking feels based. Like, oh, I saw a really like muscular or tall woman, like. Men sneaking their way into women's sports. That seems to be how it goes like 98% of the time. There's probably some niche issues where I would agree that like maybe the variance in bone density might lead to some degree of like statistically significant advantage, which might need to be compensated for in some way. But those niche issues are a long cry away from like, men sneaking their way in, which is how this is usually framed.
Well, don't you find it weird that they happen to win the gold medal and break women world records all around? Like, I think
no
there
trans
is
woman
one
has ever won a gold medal in the Olympics, and they've been allowed in there.
No,
for 16
not
years.
the Olympics, but we're talking about bicycling. Like, I can pick up articles if you want. So there's one that won in a bicycle competition the gold medal. There's one that won in a wrestling 2 years in a row and hospitalized a couple of women.
Yeah. Why
there's
can't
Miss
trans
Hannah
women
Mousy.
win gold? Like, if cis women can win gold, why can't trans women win gold?
Hasn't a trans woman won gold? Wasn't that what Caitlyn Jenner? She's a gold medalist for the Olympics.
That was like 20 years before she transitioned.
Yeah.
Wrong side of history, guys.
I mean, just like even if trans and cis women were perfectly identical in every physiological way, statistically speaking, some gold medals would be won by trans women just because they're participating. But like, if your argument is that like maybe there's some extent to which not having taken enough feminizing hormones can lead to an undue advantage, I could get behind that. I think maybe we should consider the possibility that there should be like a short moratorium on how long you should be able to take feminizing hormones before you get to throw your weight in. It's not like crazy fair or fun, but I could accept arguments like that. But those are not the arguments that I typically see from like right-leaning spaces.
Well, that is pretty much the arguments that I see. But again, like I've got nothing against trans women competing because I think it's very entertaining. You know, to me, it's funny to watch.
But you think it's funny to watch because you say like trans women BTFO, all the cis women they fight against, and you refer to trans women as he, but like the stats show that they're not like blowing the asses out of all the women they participate against in like higher end sports. So it seems like if it's entertaining, it's not because one side's BTFOing the other, it's just because you enjoy women's sports, which congratulations, I do too. They're pretty fun.
Yeah, I've got nothing against women's sports. Usually I don't watch that many, but I do like to watch a little bit of handball every now and then, and tennis because
big volleyball fan.
Yeah, there's Simona Halep, a Romanian woman who actually got the gold medal. So
hell yeah,
I have to watch that.
Saying.
Yeah, so you're saying you think it's entertaining, V, because the trans women would just easily dominate these sporting events. Is that correct?
Well, just show the picture that I showed you.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. That's the feels-based argument. I was like, yeah, here's a really tall woman. And you're like, no, that's not the arguments I see. I see data. But then you're like, haha, here's a picture of like a muscular woman. Like, yeah, this woman's huge, but I've met some huge cis women. I mean, I like to look at data for these issues here.
Can you name me a cis woman that plays volleyball and is roughly the same size as Miss Hannah Mousy?
I do not. I lied to you earlier. I don't follow any sports. Okay, I have no fucking idea. But I follow the data, and I know that like if what the reactionaries were saying was true, there would be like an army of like ripped like 6'3" trans women dominating every sporting event. for the past decade and a half, but that just doesn't seem to be happening. And I don't think it can happen because transitioning is not like a tactical advantage you employ to do better in a sport. Like, transitioning is a massive fucking decision that you make on your life that can lead to huge consequences down the road and should only be undergone with like a great deal of introspection. So the idea that like the Chinese government is gonna like tactically transition, like assign male at birth kids to be like this just seems fantastical to me. I would need to see it happen, and if it did happen, then I would want to do something about it. You know?
Well, it's just a supposition that I had. We talked about this offline, and I said that the Chinese government, if in these Olympics, right? So if in the Olympics that are upcoming, we're going to see a lot of transgender people winning gold medal, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chinese government is going to put a lot of transgender athletes, because the Chinese government is taking 3-year-old, 4-year-old kids, stepping on their knees, bending their bones. Like there was a major controversy about the way they treat these children just to make sure that they grow up winning the gold medal and representing their country.
I've seen Rocky IV. They do. The fucking former communist states, they're all about that. Yeah. If he dies, he dies. I know. I love the memes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if the Chinese government would do something like that. But again, it depends if the next Olympics actually has transgender women winning a lot of gold medals.
I mean, it didn't happen the last Olympics or the last one or the one before that. So, I mean, if it starts...
Yeah, but it's only a matter of time until, more transgender people start entering.
It's been 16 years. All right, actually.
Well, I don't think they could have competed 16 years ago. When was the... when
2000,
did the Olympics
2004 was when the... 2004 was when the Olympics started admitting transgender women. 2003, I'm sorry. Yeah, a committee convened by the International Olympics Committee Medical Commission drew up new guidelines for the participation of athletes who had undergone gender reassignment. And even now, like, you have to, it has to have been like 2 years of feminizing hormones. So I think like the limitations are pretty stringent, and we haven't seen any backlash yet. If it happens, we can discuss it. But if it does,
I agree.
Happen,
but have a lot of transgender women competed so far?
I don't have the data on that.
Because that's the question, just because it's allowed doesn't mean that a lot of them competed. Like, you have to also take into account they're a small percentage of the population. And out of that small percentage, it's also a question how many are actually interested in performing sports. And even the ones that perform sports, like how many of them are interested at performing at Olympics level.
I mean, maybe they aren't getting into the Olympics because trans women aren't like super amazing at sports inherently. Estrogen is like a fucking athletics killer. I have to tell you, god damn, taking one of them pills a day. I mean, I can't imagine somebody being able to keep up with Olympics training and taking a drug specifically designed to make bodily changes that make you less athletic. Like that seems like a fucking killer. I've seen like the Olympic training people do that. Shit's insane. And to take like the performance unenhancing drugs at the same time, I don't know. Like, again, if it becomes an issue, worth looking at, perhaps.
Here's the example for MMA that Joe Rogan used. Actually not. Sorry, wrong link there. I posted in the links, but I'm also putting it up on the screen if you can see it there. It's a trans woman fighting in MMA, and she just dominates based on size and strength.
Here's a TMZ link.
Yeah.
I mean. Cisgender women can dominate on size and strength. I would need like a data-based approach towards this, because individual anecdotes don't always paint an accurate picture of what like is a social problem.
Here's another one that managed to win track world title at cycling. Like there's a lot of
these are more individual examples.
Yeah, they're individual examples, but they're breaking world records. It's not.
Cisgender women will do that too. This is what I mean, by the way, the fundamental... Well, I don't mean that because I didn't say it prior, but like you said, like, I just think it's funny seeing like women get their ass kicked. I love the one-sided. But now you're like... but now you're like supporting the position that like any other person would in this issue. That you saying it's entertaining is just an obfuscation for your actual point, which is that it's unfair. And I just don't see data indicating that at that point. There are going to be individual examples of exceptionally like powerful or well-performing trans women, because the same has happened for cis women in the past.
All right, let's move on to another subject, because
amazing. Wait, really quick, out of curiosity, do you have any opinions on the Jessica? What's her last name? Jessica Yaniv controversy that's been going on here in the Western Hemisphere.
The one with what's her name? Lindsay Shepard.
Lindsay Shepard. I don't know that person. No.
Then maybe it's another controversy. Just tell me what it's about, and I'll tell you if I know.
Oh no, not a big issue. I was just curious in that moment. Nah, let's do it. Let's dig into the meat.
Is from Canada, right?
Yeah, the Canadian one.
Oh yes, I know who you're talking about now. The scrotum waxing incident, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh right, yeah. I think she's actually into two controversies. Like one is the scrotum waxing, and if I'm not mistaken, she also got someone banned from Twitter because she was involved into some very, problematic tweets.
I think she's also some kind of pedophile. The reason why I brought it up is because I think it's another like really excellent example of people taking individual examples of like noteworthy or exceptional behavior from a transgender person and using it to extrapolate a whole lot of shit about trans people in general. Like, to my knowledge, there's no like proven correlation between transgender people and like being a child molester, for example, as much as the right would love you to believe otherwise. But like now that this is happening and now that she's being pretty fucking creepy, Jessica, like a whole bunch of people are like, we were right. Like they're up in arms about it. So I guess I just generally have a problem with people who like claim to be data-based using individual anecdotes to reaffirm a point that they didn't have data to reaffirm in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that you have certain people that are LGBT, and when they're involved in a scandal, they use their, LGBT card, quote unquote, as a way to try to deflect criticism. It's like, you're not attacking me because I have these very disgusting messages that I'm trying to molest kids. You're attacking me because I'm transgender.
Yeah, I agree. That is an issue.
Yeah, and the transgender community should call that out more, to be honest. Like, if a Romanian would do that, like if some Romanian would go into London and they would commit crimes and then say, oh, you're just picking on me because I'm Romanian, I would be the first to speak out against that shit. I'm
generally not of the opinion that it's the responsibility of members of minority group to, like, speak out every single time somebody of their group does something stupid, you know?
V, is it true? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The reason I would speak out, right, is because I know that when I would go to London, whether I want it or not, other people would associate me with the fact that I'm a Romanian and would treat me the same that they treat other Romanians. Like, stereotyping happens, whether you want it or not. And when I go to a foreign country, I try to conduct myself as best as possible as to not attract stigma upon myself and, people associated with me.
Do you think that's like a good meme or a bad meme? Because I think that's a fucking bad meme. That like people from minority... Well, no, it doesn't have to be. We do have control over society to an extent. Like, I'm white. If I go outside and like shit in my hand and fling it at a cop car while like live streaming the whole thing, people wouldn't like ask for the white community to come out and disavow my behavior or whatever. It's about who has power and who doesn't, who engages in prejudice and who doesn't. I think it's a pretty bad meme. I think we should move away from that expectation.
But there's plenty of white people that call that shit out. Like, I can get you at least a dozen articles from mainstream media publication with white people saying, oh, we white people need to do more about X, Y, and Z.
But they don't need to for the community to not get shit on. Like, no one's unironically, like, if a single white person does something bad, no one else is like, where are the white community leaders speaking out about this? Like, that literally never happens.
There are no white community leaders.
Wait, who's a white...
David Duke?
Yeah, okay.
Like that's what I wanted to say. Like, do you expect Richard Spencer to come out and go like, I disavow this?
No, I don't, because I don't expect white people to have to disavow other white people to avoid being like judged. But other minority groups get that because they're not white. So I don't.
Well, I'll give you another example. Then, when a right winger does something, people expect right winger talking heads to disavow it. Like in Charlottesville, the media went to Donald Trump and asked him to disavow that.
Yeah, the difference is that in that instance, the group actually has a inherent propensity towards the behavior they're being asked to disavow. So the fact that Donald Trump said there are bad people on both sides after being asked for his opinion on a Nazi rally is an indication that right-leaning people, and the fact that people supported him for it, that's an indication that the question is valid. There's a relationship between conservatives and like conservative Nazism. There's no relationship between like trans people and child molesting. Like that's.
But I never made that claim. I don't know where you got it from.
Oh, no. So, well, that's a lot of people do make that claim. So I'm saying I'm totally fine with calling out all right-leaning people for the shitty things right-leaning people do. Because the things that they do that are shitty are intrinsic to the characteristics of being white. I wouldn't ask, like, right-leaning people to disavow a right-leaning person who, like, got in a drunk car accident. That was a shitty thing, but it's not intrinsic to their conservative values. But it's very different because being trans isn't an ideology. It's just that's their identity.
I get it, but we started this conversation from saying when a trans person is doing something shitty, right? That doesn't mean that you should accuse all trans people of doing that. But what I'm saying is when a trans person does something shitty and then says, you're not criticizing me for doing something shitty, you're criticizing me because I'm trans, when it's obviously that the people are criticizing them for doing something shitty, other trans people should step in and say, well, even though you're trans, you're still a shitty person because you did X, Y, and Z. Like, stop using the identity of trans as a way of a shield because you're making all of us look bad.
Well, for one, I mean, they did. I don't know of a single, like, major trans person who spoke on this issue who spoke in favor of Jessica. For two, Jessica was attacked for being trans. And for three, oh God, excuse me. It's so hot. My body is literally fucking decomposing inside of my organs.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's so fucking worrying me.
I mean, we had a guy vomiting in the intro to this show, so,
Nice. Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. But like, third, can't we overlook that? Like, for instance, like, I'm left-leaning. When Jessica did that shit, was like, hey, people just attacked me for being trans. There were people attacking her for being trans, but I'll attack her too, because she's a fucking predator. I'll get right on that, absolutely. And I'll criticize anyone who believes that her transness can be used as a shield there. But I would think that even right-leaning people, if they had a degree of impartiality on this, would be able to accuse her of being a predator or a child molester or something along those lines without invoking an anti-trans argument. But every single right-leaning person online who I've seen make a video about Jessica has bombarded her with transphobia in addition to criticizing her shittier elements. So it seems like they don't care about the shittier elements, they care about using them as a Trojan horse to bring their transphobia into the fold.
I don't know, I would have to speak with the person who did that. I don't, like, the thing I believe why a lot of right-wing people are pissed off is because she went into a parlor and wanted her to get waxed, and I believe the woman there didn't want to touch a penis. Is that correct? Do I understand the controversy properly?
Yeah, male genitals.
Yeah, that seems to be the extent. Yes.
Yes.
Right. So don't you think that if a person doesn't want to touch a penis, they shouldn't be forced to?
No, I think Jessica's in the wrong here. I think the salon had every right to say that they didn't want to provide that service.
Yeah, well, that's why I think a lot of right-wing people are upset about it.
Why the transphobia? There are so many people saying she's like an ugly, brutish, fake woman, monster, creature. There's so much of it, and it's like fucking relentless. If the issue was that she's like a dumb bitch or a predator or whatever, we can call that it easy peasy.
If we called her a repugnant cunt, that'd be fine. Even whether or not she has a cunt doesn't matter.
Yes, exactly. We should call people repugnant cunts if they behave poorly, and we should infuse it with as little gendered vitriol as possible. That's my dream. That's what MLK would have wanted.
I mean, what she did on Twitter with Lindsay Shepherd is she called Lindsay to have a loose vagina because she gave birth. And she started saying a lot of misogynistic shit. And when Lindsay calls her an ugly fat man, then she goes to Twitter and reports Lindsay. So Lindsay gets banned, and she doesn't. So, I guess,
all right,
according to Twitter's terms of service, like, I agree, because that's against the terms of service to misgender someone. But you have some pretty fucked up terms of service if someone that's a pedophile gets to stay, or at least, has very disturbing messages being posted, and gets to insult other people and provoke them into an argument. But you can't take it. Like, you can dish it, but you can't take it. That's really shitty.
No, I get it. I mean, Twitter is only like responsible for enforcing TOS for things that take place on their platform. So like the predatory messages coming out wouldn't really, like, there are tons of like Stefan Molyneux is a Nazi. Like, he still has a platform, even though being Nazi like intrinsically details like a lack of adherence to the TOS. So like those things happen. But I guess I kind of support that ban. Like, Jessica was baiting, that's for sure. But like, I think that saying that like a trans woman is an ugly man is a way worse insult in terms of TOS violation than like saying, haha, you gave birth, your cunt's loose. I would say that it's a lot worse,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the ban was justified because it violates the TOS. But my point is that the TOS is complete shite. Like that is absolutely ridiculous. Like if you're going, like if you're provoking someone, if you're talking shit to someone and the person talks shit back at you and maybe escalates a little bit, you can't just go, oh, I'm insulted. Oh, I'm offended. It's
well, it depends on why you're insulted, though. Like if I was arguing with like a Zionist on Twitter or whatever, and they clapped me hard, and I clapped back, call them like a dumb fuck, like that's fine. What if I call back telling them like a dirty Jew, like that's gonna get me fucking banned easy peasy. It's not about the fact that you're insulting people. It's the motivation and the context of the insult. Trans people are like super fucking victimized. I get why Twitter would be sensitive about it.
Well, I don't know, man. Like I'm in Eastern Europe. When I argue with someone and they're insulting me, like my whole thing is to insult them back. It's not to do mathematics of what's acceptable and what isn't. I will tell them the shit that I know is going to piss them off, so that they experience the same offense that I got. Like that's how we argue here in Eastern Europe.
Wait, would you, if you were arguing with like an obnoxious Jewish guy, would you say like, you disgusting fucking Jew, I wish that Hitler had finished the job? Like that would probably sting, but like you understand how that's very different from just insulting them individually, right?
Man, like the best way to insult someone is to customize the insult in a way that it's going to hurt them. Like if someone that I don't know insults me, then I'm going to look at some stereotypical characteristics and I'm going to say like, well, fuck your mom, or your mom is a slut, or some shit like that. And I say that to offend him, to upset him, right? If I know that he's going to be upset about what Hitler did and he's in Romania, then yeah, I'll say that to piss him off. But on the internet, now I have to do the math and do the calculations.
Yes.
And go like, well, this isn't acceptable for me to say. I want to offend him, but I don't want to offend him that much.
I'm fine with that.
So V, I've been meaning to ask you, so what's your take on Donald Trump as someone who doesn't live in the United States, from the outside looking in, as president? How would you rate his performance? Amazing. Would you say?
Well, considering that Romania is in NATO and the opponent to Donald Trump wanted a no-fly zone over Syria, and that would have escalated issues with Russia, probably dragging Romanian lives into a conflict that I'm not interested in. I was happy that Donald Trump won the election and he pulled troops out of Syria. But I don't know who's he going to run up against in the next election, so I can, make an opinion. I don't know that a lot of the media gave shit to Donald Trump for things that other presidents did.
Wait a second.
I'm unaware of something that he did which wasn't done in the past by other American presidents.
Wait a second. Are you not a Bernie head? Do you not support Bernie 2020?
No. If you want someone from the left that I like to be...
Imagine.
Tulsi Gabbard is someone that I like from the left.
I know she's big with right-leaning people. Wait, let's talk about this. Okay, hold on. Wait, why Tulsi Gabbard?
Because she's anti-war, first of all. Second of all, she's talking against big corporations like social media. And I believe that this used to be the job of the left, to look out for the little guy against oppression. And oppression could come from big government, organized religion, and big corporations. She's still a left-leaning person.
The left's still in favor of that.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I mean, you have people who do the talk, but when they get elected, they're not really doing anything against big corporations. Or like for example, from what I know, it's Elizabeth Warren and Tulsi Gabbard that actually talk against the ever consolidating power that social media has.
Well, okay, wait. This triggers the fuck out of me. Are you a socialist?
No.
Wait, why do you want the nationalization of tech corporations?
Well, there is a difference between utility and private corporation. Like a utility is the electric company, the water company,
or the internet. Yeah.
They're still for-profit corporations. But the electric company can't just say, yeah, we disagree with what Chess Bank is doing, so we're going to cut off their power.
Yeah, but that's not comparable, because Twitter and shit, those aren't utilities. Those are websites. The internet is a utility, and I agree that everyone should be able to access the internet.
Which is why I would make the argument that these corporations should become utilities as well. Because if you want to live in a first world nation, like I'm not talking about Africa or other places. If you live in America, you need social media. Like when you want to find a job.
Do you think the government should obliterate landlords as a class and seize housing and then redistribute it based on need? because housing is a way more necessary utility than Twitter is.
Yeah, but think about it. Like electricity is already a utility.
Yes, but Twitter is not like electricity. Electricity is a tool used to facilitate a great number of things. Twitter is a social media platform. I can speak up on this. This triggers the fuck out of me because Republicans and conservatives were 100% against the nationalization or regulation of any industry until some right-leaning people got banned and demonetized on YouTube and Twitter, and now suddenly they're like up in arms about like big tech suppressing their rights. Prager, you made a video on it. Like, if we want to talk about corporations banding together to suppress the rights of the individual, why tech companies? We can go through housing. We can go through the fact that we have to pay for water. What the fuck? We can go to education. There are so many things that we can go to that would massively improve the lives of people. But they go after Twitter and YouTube because they don't like it when the shouty man gets banned for saying that the Holocaust didn't happen. It's so fucking weird.
Well, here's the thing, right? You say that electricity is a utility, so why aren't houses a utility? Well, I think houses are more important than electricity, right? Like, I would rather, if I were forced to choose between not having a house or not having electricity, I think I could deal with not having electricity versus not having a house. And yet, one is a utility and one isn't. Now, if you ask why social media should also be a utility, is that if you want to find a job, most employers, and I know a lot of people who do this, they go and they look at your social media presence. And they do this because you can lie on a resume, but you can't lie on 4 years of Facebook activity.
You need a permanent address to apply to most jobs, which is something that we could give everyone if we nationalized housing. Every argument you're going to make for the necessity of nationalizing tech companies, I could make 1,000-fold over for housing. But conservatives only care about the tech companies bit because the shouty man got banned. It's literally it. Like, if you want to talk about nationalizing industries to improve human life, housing is the next one. But they'll never touch that. They focus on the tech companies. It's very weirdly specific.
Because you can't really do it. Like, do you think when Romania was under socialism and they did nationalize housing, like, you legitimately did not own the house that you were into, you were just paying rent for it. Do you think that there weren't homeless people?
Wait, I don't own the house I'm in. We live in that system now.
In America, you don't own the house you're in? Why not?
Because I have a landlord. Most people don't own homes. Most people like rent.
All right, but I'm saying that in Romania, no one owned the house. Like, there wasn't a single Romanian citizen that actually owned the house. And with all that, you still had homeless people. People were forced to live in matchbox houses, they called them. They were incredibly small.
Do you think there might have been other issues that would have prevented Romania from achieving the same standard of nationalized housing excellence that America could with its massive wealth and social infrastructure? I don't know enough about Romania to make like conclusive statements on that, but the statement like, oh, Romania tried having state-owned housing and there were still homeless people, so that's why we should ignore housing. Let's go over the tech companies. Like, no. We know for a fact that there are ways that our government could intervene in the current like rentiers market to make things more livable for the average American. We don't do that because we generate a lot of money for landlords as things are today, and they have very powerful lobbying groups that maintain this system of oppression. But to take a look at all that and go like, oh yeah, nationalizing housing, it'll never work, whatever. And then go like,
well, can you name me a country in the world that has the system that you want and it works?
What? You don't know what system that I want.
Well, one where the government owns all the housing.
I never said I wanted the government to own all the housing. I want it to be...
Well, what would your solution be then?
Well, there are a number of things that can be done. So, we can have government infrastructural projects in which they build out large swaths of houses in areas that were previously underdeveloped. We can impose not a... I struggle for the concise term here. It's not a rent ceiling. What is it called? It's not a maximum rent. It's a system by which you zone off areas for different levels of development to ensure that poor people aren't like driven out of the communities that they grew up in as things get gentrified. There are a lot of systems that like really intelligent city planners and sociologists have like derived. The only reason why we're not doing it is because it makes people money. Like community-owned housing would be a long, like, big step forward. These are all like big social issues. Why
is there
tech
a country
companies?
that has the system that you propose that you can say so I can think about it and it's like, yeah, I want like that country to be?
No, I cannot at this moment point to a country that I can think of.
Because I know like a lot of people, especially Margaret Thatcher, they tried to mess with the system, and they make a law that is kind on surface. Like, for example, after World War II, Thatcher said that if you have a house where you lived in for a particular amount of time, you are the first in line to buy it. So if you want to sell your house, you have to sell it to the person you're renting. And what happened is that people purchased the house and then sold it for 4 times the amount to other people.
Yeah, that's right of first sale. That just seems like a loophole they should have done a better job with. I don't know if Margaret Thatcher is the best like poster child to explain the veracity and effectiveness of left-leaning housing policies.
Yeah, and after like Romania became capitalist after socialism, like a lot of people also started buying property, and you had certain people that had relatives or friends working in government institutions, and they took advantage of the knowledge of which houses are going to pay.
Wait. My suggestion of community like housing projects is not like full state socialism. We don't need to. This is a very boomer like complaint here. Like, you want to do something about America's wildly unequal housing market? Take a look at what happened to the fucking like Soviet satellite states. Like,
my point is that whenever the government is trying to interfere with the free economy, it's usually ending up with people profiting from it.
No. The government is responsible for a massive implementation of infrastructure that would not be possible in a purely private economy. And as you so wisely posited earlier, their involvement in utilities is one of the reasons why we maintain a higher standard of living in America today. Housing is utility. Being able to, this is like non-negotiable. You have to be able to live in a place. We can't just have homeless people be like, oh, well, that, housing's a luxury. Housing is a necessity, and ensuring people have housing leads to a whole bunch of social solutions and cost-saving metrics down the line. We can't like throw our hands up in the air over this. This is a serious issue, and it's a utility. And if we're going to apply this vacuous standard of government interventionism to tech companies, we should certainly do it to our houses. Absolutely, we should.
But I disagree, and I'll tell you why. It's like when you say housing, you need to take a difference between like a one-room apartment, a matchbox type of house that the Chinese have, and like a villa. You can't say, well, everyone needs a house. You would have to put a limit.
Yes, it would be complicated, but there are already sociologists who have drafted plans and implemented smaller versions of these policies in cities. There are community housing projects. There have been benefits to Section 8 housing, as harmful as they are in many ways. They are preferable to some of the alternatives out there. There are ways that we can deal with this. A lot of people don't want to touch this issue, though, because they think like interference in the free market is a bad thing on government's end, and then you unironically advocate for the nationalization of a social media company. Do you think that's a little bit hypocritical?
Well, making something a utility and nationalizations are two different things.
It's already a utility. Houses are they're not a luxury good. There's something you need to live.
I was talking about social media companies. But if you don't want them to become a utility, here's something that Ted Cruz is proposing. If someone writes slander in the New York Times, they're a publisher, so you don't have to sue the journalist that writes slander on you. You sue the New York Times. Social media companies are considered to be platform, like the telephone company. And yet, if someone posts some slander on you on Twitter, like, for example, Alex Jones was banned from Twitter, and yet you have reporters and journalists that are publishing stuff about him on Twitter, and he can't defend himself.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a private service. He was banned for violating TOS.
Yeah, so basically they're saying that if that's the case, if Twitter gets to decide who uses their server and who doesn't, then they should become a publisher and not a public platform.
Well, no.
Yes, like the telephone company.
Should a bowling alley be a publisher because you can kick out a person who's screaming about the Jewish question? Like, because they're cultivating the attitudes that they want to have within there? The difference between a publisher and a platform isn't just no rules. You can't have any rules. If there are any rules whatsoever, you become a publisher. It has to do with accepting legal liability and having a vet. You vet the things that come out of your platform. There's a system by which you accept some degree of responsibility for what comes out of you. That's not the case for Twitter or YouTube, whatever. They're not publishers, they're platforms. It's not like having any TOS whatsoever automatically makes you a publisher.
Yeah, that's my point. They're not a platform.
They are a platform. Just having a TOS doesn't mean you're a publisher.
I'll tell you why. If two bank robbers talk about on the phone and organize a heist, you can't sue the phone company for allowing that to happen. If a pedophile sends child porn to someone else on a text message, the phone company isn't responsible. But the phone company isn't allowed to just say, yeah, we're going to cut your phone number. You're not allowed to use the phone with us, right? Because they're a platform and they're forced by law to not be able to do that. Meanwhile, Facebook, for example, they get the benefits of both worlds. They can be a publisher.
Because phones are a utility and social media companies aren't. If you're denied the ability to use the phone lines, that's literally a system of infrastructure that has been denied to you. If you can't use Twitter, you just can't use Twitter. And again, the difference between a publisher and a platform isn't as simple as having a TOS and holding people to it.
Well, that's my point, right? And that's also a lot of like Elizabeth Warren's point, and I believe it's also Ted Cruz's, and even Donald Trump is talking about it, that they want to make these companies to become utilities, just like the phone company.
Yeah, it'll literally never happen. The idea of nationalizing these multi-billion-dollar companies, like, this is just a meme that they talk about to appeal to people who don't like it when, like, shiny head angry man ranted about the Jewish question and got banned. The idea of America passing a bill to nationalize multi-billion-dollar tech companies in defiance of, like, decades of case law about the usage of social media companies, that I would be, like, I'll come on to the Drunken Peasants podcast again, if it's still up, if I'm not dead, and I will eat my entire body live. I will cram my fucking arm down my throat and I will choke to death in front of all of you for entertainment. And I will direct all of my viewers to super chat the fucking Drunken Peasants, okay? Because this will literally never happen. It's a talking point to appeal to people who are angry about YouTube bans. Nothing more. This will literally never happen.
I mean, we'll see.
How'd you feel about the Sargon Patreon ban where he was banned for what he did on another platform?
I think that's valid because Patreon isn't like really a platform of its own. You can publish stuff to it, but usually when you're given Patreon bucks, you're given Patreon bucks for things you're doing off platform. So if they're going to enforce a TOS, it like necessarily has to be what you're doing elsewise. Otherwise, like, you could be like, your Patreon could be like, you have like a child sex slave dungeon and people like have to be your patron to go into.
But that's illegal. I mean,
well, yeah, well, true, but there are things that people have done that are illegal that have gotten them banned off Patreon. Like Lauren Southern, for example. Lauren Southern was kicked off Patreon because of that fucking migrant boat shit that she did, which was illegal. And for that reason, she got banned off Patreon, which was an off-platform decision, but I think it's valid. I think it holds true.
I find it interesting that on a lot of these platforms, all of them actually, if you're a predator, right, you're a child molester, and you use the internet in order to attract kids and shit, and then you go to prison because it's found out. When you come out of prison, you still get to have a Twitter, you still get to have a Facebook, you still get to have a YouTube channel. But if you're a person that, I don't know, like Alex Jones, says controversial shit, you get banned from all of these platforms in the same day within the span of 2 hours.
Yes, because in one of those examples, you run up into trouble with the law and you get in trouble with the law. Whereas in other instances, you have run up into trouble with the TOS of tech companies, so you get banned from those. Also, as a provision for getting like released after child sex crimes or whatever, it can be made such that you can never go on the internet again. That's actually something, there's precedent for that. Like if you molest or like prey on children or you groom them online or something, the state can be like, hey, fuck you. You're not allowed to go on the internet anymore. And damn, that's because I fucking love the internet, you know? Probably best they're not here, though. Probably the best they stay off.
That is correct. However, the child molester actually gets to have a lawyer. People need to prove a case against them. You know, there's actually a judge and a group of peers that are going to say if he's guilty or not. People like Alex Jones just gets banned. There's no appeal.
Do you want there to be a court for Twitter?
No, what I'm saying is that they have more power than like.
Yeah, and in a bowling alley, they have total power.
First of all, stop comparing Twitter with a bowling alley.
I like
right?
bowling
the comparison
alleys,
is enough.
Listen, I just want to go for a few rolls, okay? I'm feeling a strike in these wrists. It's on my mind.
No, if you want to compare Twitter, you should compare it with a newspaper, for example, or a platform that spreads ideas, not with the bowling alley.
But what you can't, because newspaper companies are publishers, not platforms.
Well, that's the thing, which is why people are saying that they should choose. If they want to sense, like, here's the thing that Google
We're running in circles. Of enforcing TOS doesn't make you a publisher. Being a publisher means you accept responsibility for the output of the things that you produce. Like, that means, like, Twitch would be a better example of, like, more of a publisher than a platform, because Twitch will hold you to some, if you're a partner, Twitch will actually hold you as a contractor to some very strict specifications to behavior. You can make, like, a decent argument for that if there was, like, a contract contractors union of some kind, or maybe you could make the argument that because Twitch just such a strict job, like assuring which people produce what and they make money off everyone's individual like stream contributions, maybe you can make an edge case argument there, but that's just not the case with Twitter. Twitter doesn't assume any legal culpability for the individual contents of anyone's production there. It's just not a publication.
Exactly, which is why a U.S. senator is proposing law to remove big tech's legal immunity over user content, which means that if big tech really wants to mess with the algorithm, like here's something that
that's
really
a senator, not a lawyer or a PAC. A senator can propose anything to get their fans jerking off over them.
Yes, which is why the fans are jerking off over the right wing and people like Elizabeth Warren on the left. Because everyone else is like you. It's like, oh, these big companies, they're gathering and they're consolidating so much power, but it's okay, you know?
No, you can't say that when you just dismissed, like, regulating housing, which is one of the biggest issues we have in this country today. You can't say that I'm a shill for big fucking corporations when you, like, dismiss the idea of tackling a multi-trillion-dollar industry for the betterment of the proletariat, okay? The problem is, listen, I'm very anti-corporate, okay? I just don't think this is idiotic. The only reason why anyone cares about this is because people don't like it that fucking bald head shiny man got banned for shouting about the Jewish question. That's it. That's it. If we want to talk about the consolidation of power in corporations.
Let me ask you a question for a change, right? If you have your idea about how housing should work, and social media companies would decide that your idea is problematic and it's hate speech, and they would ban you from every platform wherever you get an audience, how would you be able to spread your ideas to the world in our day and age without using social media?
I don't see how this is relevant. It'd be a problem. That doesn't make them a publisher.
It's not about publisher or not. I'm telling you the power of social media. You made it that earlier.
I agree. I agree social media has way too much power. But the only reason people are making this fuss about this specific issue is because they don't like it shiny head ball man Jewish question banned off YouTube. That's it. That's like, it's ridiculous to me that left-leaning people have been arguing for decades over the consolidation of power in the tech industry, and for centuries about the consolidation of power for business owners. And the only time right-leaning people turn a twist, not just right-leaning people, even fucking like traditional conservatives will twist on this issue, is for this specific thing. It's crazy to me. Talk about having no fucking principles.
Hold on, isn't the left-leaning people upset about Russia's interference in U.S. elections, and they were saying that they use social media to do it?
Wait, let's just think for a second. Is there a difference between being mad about your fave getting banned off YouTube and proposing the government nationalize a tech company, and having issues with a foreign power using their intelligence agencies to subvert the decision-making prowess of the citizenry of another country? Can we think of the difference between these two things?
Yeah, the principle that I understand is that social media can influence votes, and a foreign government would use social media in order to influence those votes.
Yeah, the issue there isn't with social media, it's with the government that we're allowing to interfere with our fucking... This is such a lib shit argument. This is like, yeah, the issue isn't with the social media companies there, it's with the government and our government's refusal to engage with that in a meaningful way. Like when all of the intelligence agencies came up to Trump and they were like, hey, Russia's fucking with us. And Trump was like, Putin seems trustworthy. Didn't they have
like millions of dollars of investigation and it was that Russia didn't fuck with you?
They did, though. There has been a huge amount of evidence that came out about Russia deliberately funding disinfo programs through social media to influence the voting decisions of the American public. Like, that's a fact. That's not a conspiracy theory.
Well, yeah, but that's my point, because you can use social media. Like, there was a hearing recently about Google, and it was the sociologist that said Facebook can influence millions of votes just by sending for Democrats that a message reminding them that they should go to vote. And this would cause like billions of people to actually go and vote for a particular party. Facebook even had
they could do the same thing over phones. They call people. Telemarketers call person to person and ask if the person who picks up the phone line supports this candidate. That already happens. If you have a problem with like canvassing and politicians like profiteering off of like ad exposure, then you don't have a problem with tech companies. You have a problem with that concept. Everything that you have an issue with here can be dissolved into other issues. The reason why it gets brought up into tech companies is because people are mad that shiny head Jewish question man got banned. That's it.
This is the straw man that you keep bringing. That shiny man Jewish person.
It's not. A couple.
You're not
of the
letting
conversation.
Me explain the problem that I have with social media. Every time I want to explain it, you're interrupting me. The problem that I have with social media is that when, for example, they had a hearing also about Google, and Twitter does this the same. Like you go on Twitter and you will see the thing trending. Now, any person that looks and sees the word trending, they think that this is the most popular, the most hot topic of the day. In reality, it's not the case. The social media companies can just put something trending that is not really trending. And an example would be with the movie, what was it called? From Marvel, the one with Captain Marvel, that was getting criticism and backlash. And you have journalists writing how YouTube just changed their algorithm. And all of a sudden, on the front page, you see only positive things. So it's not about Jewish man trending or not. They can do this with products.
Yes, it is.
They can do this with ideas. They can do this with literally anything.
For one, that is their right. It is a private platform. If you have an issue with companies consolidating their power to direct broader conversation, you have a problem with what Karl Marx would call ideology. The assertion that in all instances, the ideology of the masses is that of the ruling classes, that the culture follows the will of the rich. If you have an issue with that, like I do, then you would be implementing or advocating for the implementation of a really broad, multidisciplinary, systemic approach to influencing the degree to which rich people can influence our opinions. But you don't support that because that would be socialism, or at least it would be edging towards it.
So there's two wrong things with this, right? Number one is that I'm not supporting that. What I'm saying, if I buy a can of tuna and I read what's on the box, it better be on the box what is actually written on it. So if something says trending, then it should be trending. If Twitter wants to do it, it should say recommended section.
No,
right?
The FDA, Jesus Christ, promotes. Really, the FDA poses a legal requirement that businesses provide the exact contents of what's in the food you're eating. That is not the same as social media platforms needing to use hyper-accurate terminology when their algorithms determines what's popular. Every time you use an example to draw this back to, you're either drawing an example to something that would only be solved if we tackled capitalism, or something that is like it can be obliquely applied to a bunch of other things with equal or greater levels of validity. It's just, again, it's weird. Why the focus on this? If you have an issue with corporations dominating discourse.
We have it. Well, okay, so first of all, your idea that it's a private company, then it means that if Russia wants to use the private company and the private company is okay with it in order to influence American voters, then you can't do anything because it's a private company. They can do whatever
it wants. Yes, you can. If foreign intelligence agencies are making an effort to affect a political decision or an election on this soil, you can address that without nationalizing tech companies. Yes, you can.
How can you do it?
By using our foreign intelligence agencies to determine what type of bot farming, what type of engagement is being done by these groups, and then pressuring these companies to disclose that, or moreover, by outright saying that these violate certain provisions about foreign interference from electoral decision-making in this country. There are 1,000 ways the state has the ability to deter. This is like saying everyone can walk in a courtyard, so the state can't do anything if you walk into the courtyard and start shooting people. Because everyone can walk into the courtyard.
You seem to hold these corporations into such a sacred thing that they're private
not
companies.
Sacred. I want these things to be changed. You only want them changed in a very specific way to address a very specific set of issues that benefits the right wing. Every single time this issue comes up, it's from right-leaning people who are framing it in the context of their fave getting banned off Twitter or YouTube. I'm saying to you, if you actually care about corporations controlling discourse, buddy, have I got an ideology for you, okay? Let's talk about socialism. I agree, the wealthy have too much power. But the idea, this is a very Strasserite approach. You don't like corporations? Well, then you should be okay with this one specific change of this one specific set of corporations that we're doing only so right-leaning thought can get more popular. No. I'm sorry, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
If tomorrow the social media companies would decry socialism to be hate speech, which in my country, by the way, communism and Nazism is both are banned.
It's a good thing I fight against social media corporations.
Of service that would say socialism is verboten, you would not be able to express any type of idea to the public anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yes. They would have their right you mean what? So wait, you mean what happened to socialist theorists for 50 years in America, where we couldn't put our opinions out on radio, television, or through the universities because of the Red Scare in the USSR? Trust me, buddy. If you want to dick wave about oppression from broader corporate interests, us socialists have it fucking covered. Okay? Yeah, it's a serious issue, and for decades we existed only in the underground, sharing pamphlets with one another and forming like little covens, little DSA hideouts in the attics of churches when the FBI wasn't watching. That's what we lived with for decades until after the Cold War.
And now that
it's
you
an issue.
You're advocating censorship for other people.
No,
Isn't that
I'm advocating for a more systemic approach towards corporate power, not towards right-leaning people pushing to get the TOS removed from Twitter and YouTube so they can continue to ramble their Nazi shit. That's what you're advocating
We were also we were talking about housing earlier as well. I was wondering, like here in Seattle, we have 12,000 people living in tents on the streets here. What would be your solution to that, Vosh?
I mean, it's not my field of study. I want to do more research on this subject specifically, because I'm studied in sociology and a bunch of social issues. In terms of housing, that tends to be more of an economic thing. But I've heard some really, really good propositions concerning community housing, right of first sale, and what's more, implementing zoning laws to determine the extent to which different areas are allowed to price out their apartments. That plus government housing programs meant to expand cities in directions that may not necessarily be profitable for private construction companies. I think that this could go a long way towards addressing those issues. Even then, right now, like at this moment, we have tons and tons and tons of empty houses that are being kept empty so that they appreciate in value, while a fraction of that number of empty houses are people like sleeping out in the street and like dying and starving and freezing to death. Why not force a tax on homeowners that they have to pay to the state every year that you keep a house empty for a given length of time with no tenancy and no like long-term person like living in there? Why not pay like a fat ass tax? Because what you're essentially doing is buying up property and not letting people live in it, like just so you can make more money down the line. Fuck that. You're not contributing anything to society. Give me your money.
Huge problems how many rooms do you have in your house, just out of curiosity?
Right now, I literally live in like a one room. I like basically live in a studio. I'm moving soon though.
I mean, so since 2014, the median sales price of a home went from around 400,000 up to 700,000.
It's fucking wild. 2014. And a lot of that is housing appreciating.
Yeah. I mean, also the number of rentals has skyrocketed too, as opposed to home ownership. And a lot of it here is these big tech companies. They're importing a lot of the people from out of state to come live here. And that drives up the cost of housing.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked. China's like buying a bunch of shit on the West Coast so that the housing gets more expensive so they can invest in these areas later and give corporate housing to the people who work in the companies that they establish in like the Silicon Valley. But all the people who actually live there are getting absolutely fucked over by gentrification because there's no way they can afford housing in these places. Like Seattle, San Francisco, LA, these places are like fucked from housing perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I understand in America you're saying that you're having problem with housing and there's a lot of homeless people, and yet you're also okay with opening the borders and allowing as many people as possible in.
You really want to get in on this one?
Oh, sure, let's do it. Go ahead. Just do it.
Okay, all right. So that was really dumb.
So are you a globalist, Vosh?
Wait,
Would you say you're a globalist?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm an anarchist.
Okay.
I want the abolition of borders and states. Yeah. Easily.
Okay.
Yeah. So the issue with housing here in America isn't that there are too many people and not enough houses. It's that the policies we use concerning property ownership and housing management are incredibly exclusionary and designed to fuck over poor people. So my solution to like the capitalist class fucking us over is not to go like, whoop, sorry, brown people. Sorry, they're fucking us over. Too many people getting fucked over here. No room for you. My solution is to tackle the problems of the capitalist class so that everyone, whether you're brown or black or white, can live here together in harmony. That's my dream. Absolutely.
All right, but that still doesn't change that you have a system where poor people are getting fucked over and you want even more people in. Like the system will still be in place. They're not talking about, changing the system first and then getting more people in. They're saying, okay, the system is broken, and we're just going to let as many people as possible in, which is going to fuck the poor even more, won't it?
Yeah, you could make the same argument about like black people not having babies with one another until like after the civil rights movement is passed. Like just because like there are unequal like systems of oppression that exist now doesn't mean that we have to engage in exclusionary policies to the people who need our help most until those policies get fixed. I'm pretty sure that the majority of the people who are like fleeing to America from like Southern America would rather be here with all of our problems in housing than they would be where they come from.
Yeah, but the question is, like, the people who are already in America, would they want even more people to come in there, regardless of their race?
I don't particularly care. I don't want borders. I don't think someone who lives in New York or Austin should get to decide whether or not a new like Mexican family sets up house in like Detroit or Denver or something. Like, I don't think that's their right.
Then why not invade Mexico if you don't want borders?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, if there aren't any borders, right?
I don't want to break them with military force. I want to encourage an economic and social climate where these borders dissolve.
Why is Mexico poor? Right?
For a wide variety of reasons.
Because of corruption. I'll tell you
why. Not just for corruption.
Is it there?
There is a huge. Well, I don't know. It could have. It could have something to do with incredibly exclusionary trade policies that took place over a long period of time. It could have to do with the fact that we have the drug war going on right now, where we essentially incentivize the power of the cartels in Mexico by illegalizing these drugs here and forcing all production to come from another country. There are a ton of problems with Mexico right now, and I don't think that invading them is going to bring about the solution that I want.
Of course it will. Like, you just take down the corrupt people, you invade them, you annex them, you make them into the new state of the United States of America, and you fix the problem.
I don't know. I don't know if you think, like, right now you're engaging in the rhetorical equivalent of shitting in your hand and writing a thesis on a wall with the shit. Like, no.
You don't think there'd be an insurgency and like foreign intervention messing with us, trying to invade Mexico? I think it would be
actually try to do it.
I don't want to invade Mexico.
No. I was talking to B.
Okay.
No, I was just joking about the concept of no borders, right? Like that would definitely fix
but you
the problem.
But you
of no
joked
borders.
about it by revealing how shallow your understanding of it is. No borders isn't a thing we're invoking tomorrow. Nobody advocates for that. Or if they do, they're fucking insane.
Do you want me to tackle this subject seriously, all right? Do you know what's happening? Hold on. If you wouldn't interrupt me, you will see why my country is absolutely fucked by no borders.
Wait, you're not America. All countries that aren't America are fucked.
All right. So we are in the European Union, and because of that, there are no borders. Like, people who are here, they can just take a plane ticket, go to Britain, and work there. And since we joined the European Union, Romania had around 20 million people. 4 million people have already left to work in Italy, Germany, the United Kingdom, and other nations. And it's estimated that 4 million people more are going to live within the next 3 years. This is more people than Romania has lost during World War I and World War II.
So
we're not talking about, please don't interrupt.
Sorry.
We're not talking about the older generation, right? We're talking about the young people that are able to produce, the young people that are paying the taxes. Now, when I'm going to get old, there isn't people that are going to be able to pay for my healthcare. There are people that are going to be able to pay for my pension and retirement fund.
Do you know why that is?
And let me finish, right?
Okay.
And the whole thing about it is we also have low population birth. And the reason this is because you take a country that used to be a Soviet satellite, and you're putting it to compete with countries like France, like Britain, like Western Europe, and you have a young individual here who can work in Romania for $100 an hour, for $100 a month, or take a plane ticket for $200, go to Britain and do unemployed labor for 3,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds. What person in their right mind do you think would stay in my country in order to build? And how can Romania have a future when we lost so many people?
Well, that's the thing. If there were no borders, it wouldn't be Romania not having a future. It would just be people in this world sharing their labor, sharing their economic movement, with the proceeds of that labor being divided equally and fairly amongst those. You just realized you made an argument for open borders, right? The reason why you said that's a problem is because people leave your country and then take their labor to other countries, where they then generate profits that don't benefit the older working poor in Romania. But if there were no borders, that wouldn't be a distinction that exists. In a no-border scenario, Romania would benefit from the exact same level of economic development and recompensation for the labor of these people. Romania is a different country. There are borders in the EU. People are just allowed to pass over them freely. But you don't share the exact same economic policies. You don't share the exact same base of responsibility. The taxes levied in France don't pay for schools in Romania. There's a huge difference there. I agree with the problem that you just suggested, by the way, that you posited. There there is a serious issue with, well, brain drain or labor drain, people moving from areas with low opportunity to people moving to areas with high opportunity. My solution to that isn't to restrict people from moving. I think everyone has a right to live wherever they choose to. My solution to it, rather, would be to invest in the economic infrastructure of the comparatively low development areas so that people have a reason to stay there and to work. And in the time while we're doing that, we can economically incentivize this by kicking back some of the economic benefits that we got from these people's migration back towards the areas they came from. I think that's a pretty comprehensive way to solve this economic problem, smash borders, and allow people freedom of mobility all at the same time.
In order for your solution to work, you would have literally every country in the world agreeing with your solution. And the reality is that the strong countries do not want this. The strong countries want everything for themselves.
This is a completely separate argument right here. This is a completely separate argument. Yeah, no one's going to force open borders. The idea is that after a global socialist revolution, eventually the need for borders disappears because all people are working fundamentally towards the exact same set of economic and social goals.
Yeah, but you have so many problems with this. First of all, you have different cultures that, like for example, Islamic cultures will never accept your socialist ideals.
Well, wait. Just like, for one, right now, there are active socialist groups in Islamic majority countries, but like 40 years ago, there was like an active effort for a socialist revolution in several. My history's a little bit weak, but no, the idea that Islam and socialism are fundamentally antithetical. What? The Black Panthers were socialist, and many of them were Nation of Islam memers. They're not inherently antithetical.
You can find minorities that will support you, but Islam is a conservative religion.
So is Christianity.
And Christianity is incompatible with socialism.
The Mormonism of Islam. It's like Nation of Islam is very different from traditional Islam.
Yeah, it's like even fucking wilder, and they were still socialists. I know. But
you will
Christianity, all religion is conservative. So religion dies, and then the world gets better.
That's my point. That's my point, right? Like the Pope was against the Soviets during the Cold War. All religions are against socialism, and you might find,
why'd you just say Islam?
A couple of minorities that, or maybe people who have the same goals. You can have people who are against the American government, and they might put aside their differences with the goal of overtoppling it. But at the end of the day, you're not going to have a nation that is incredibly religious just say, yeah, you know what? We're not going to take advantage of you guys. We're just going to have open borders and we're going to contribute just like everyone else.
Again, so for one, I don't know why you said Islam will never go along with socialism if what you actually meant to say was all religion. It's a little bit weird that you'd kind of single them out there. But hold on. But second of all, right now, religiosity right now is on the decrease. I disagree, by the way, with the idea that religious people can't be socialists. Christian anarchy was a pretty strong tradition and continues to this day. Many people say that Jesus had pretty anarchic characteristics in the politics that he advocated for his flock. And what's more, Iran had a massive socialist movement back in the 50s and 60s. One of the reasons why the United States of America had to fucking throw the shot, force an autocracy in these countries is because they were afraid it would get turned over to the Soviet Union. So for one, I don't think that Islam is especially anti-socialist. For two, if they are, then it's no more so than other religions, and religiosity on the whole is decreasing. And for three, again, the closed borders thing, the open borders thing it's going to take a while, This is going to be a long-term process. We're at least a century away from a proper proletarian revolution. I'm hyped for it, but I know it's going to take a little while, unfortunately.
I named Islam because I think it's the only theocratic states, except for the Vatican, which I guess would be considered Christian theocratic. If there's more, please let me know. But, when it comes to nations that operate based on a religious system and they use the holy text as a constitution, I can't think of any other besides Islam.
I don't know if that makes any fundamental difference.
Well,
also, that's not an argument about Islam. That's an argument about theocratic autocracies.
Yes, and you're not going to bring socialism into theocratic nations.
I don't think they're well, autocracies aren't going to accept socialism, but there are religious socialists. I don't know. The socialist shit will take a while to catch on. Open borders after that. No one advocates for open borders right now in this moment. That'd be fucking insane. Our infrastructure isn't designed to be able to handle that. No one's is. But eventually,
I think there's a lot of Democrats that I saw in the Democratic debate. They don't call it open borders, but they're not against just letting as many people in without deporting them.
No, I promise you, there's not a single person running for office right now, save maybe for Vermin Supreme, who unironically believes that like we should just destroy America's borders and let everyone come in with absolutely no supervision. That's fucking wild.
Let's see. You got abolish ICE, right? You got
wait, that's so different from open borders. ICE is like 20 years old.
Because that's not the whole point. Like if you're just going to interrupt me after I make one point, then you're
I like
not going
going point by point, but okay, yes.
All right, so you got the abolish ICE, you got the idea of not spending more money for the detention centers where people who travel the border are being placed until they can be processed. You got people who don't support deportations at all. You know, like how is this
none of this is none of this is even close to open borders. So ICE and the detention centers are less than 20 years old each, and both of them are tied to a number of human rights crises. So wanting them abolished, like in and of itself, has nothing to do with having open borders abolished.
No, but it's the whole caveat.
The whole caveat doesn't mean open borders. The whole caveat means not being like a fucking ethno-nationalist. And additionally, for not deporting,
what else would you need?
To advocate for open borders. That would make you a pro-open border person. Nobody is doing that right now in the political space. It'd be insane.
No, but my question is, like...
I didn't even answer the first posit there. And that you say people don't want to deport people who are already in this country. So? A lot of them have been here for decades. They contribute a net economic benefit to this country, and they commit less crime per capita.
Right? If I have a country and I allow anyone to cross the border and I don't deport them, what else would I need to say that you have open borders? Like, what would be the extra step? And you would say, all right, you need this and this and that.
You would stop them at the borders, or you would try to create sensible policies to funnel the number of people coming in. Also, just because people can cross a border and you don't deport them, is not the same thing as open borders.
Yeah,
open borders is a massive... I'm sorry?
I'm asking you, like, what more would be required
to be open
in order
borders?
To call it an open border?
Oh, well, okay, so sure. Here's what you would need to be open borders. So for one, you would need to dissolve the border. This would require the consent of Mexico and America. This isn't something that America could just do on their own. It would require a complete social, political, and economic unification of the super systems that America and Mexico both use to facilitate governance over their territory. The idea of America would be destroyed. Nations require borders. So to dissolve that border would require a degree of unification with Mexico that has been unseen in any non-imperialist conquest through, like, history. There have never been two nations that have united in this way. They wouldn't even be a nation at that point. They would just be like a federation of peoples. You would abolish the border, and at that point, like, it wouldn't even be people crossing into America. It would just be people moving from one portion of the federation to another portion of the federation. Like, that's a massive difference right there. We still in America today. We still have citizenship requirements,
but we have different connotations for it, right? So when you say open borders, you actually mean the destruction of the nation state. But when right-wingers say open borders, they mean like the unregulated trafficking of people between two countries.
It's not
so
trafficking
when a right-winger
if they're
says
just
open
moving.
borders, they're talking about, it's like, okay, if 1 million foreigners want to enter your nation, then no one is going to stop them and no one is going to deport them.
We do take in about 1 million immigrants every year into this country, which I think is a pretty reasonable number. We could probably up it a bit. I don't know. I don't care. 1 million really isn't that many if you think about it in a country that already has 340 million people. Like, we're adding up, 0.33% of our population every year? But yeah, the open borders thing is like a scare tactic. When Republicans say open borders, what they mean is like a flood of dirty, poor, brown MS-13 gang members swarming in from the south to like fucking assault like Austin and rape all the white women. And that's simply not happening. If people want to have a sensible conversation about border policy, I'm very much down for that. But the scare tacticking thing is like 100% an invocation of the right. I mean, Donald Trump himself has set a precedent for this with they're not sending their best thieves, murderers, rapists, some I assume are good people. That set the precedent right there for how we're going to discuss borders in this country. We're not going to discuss it as a policy issue. We're going to use it as a thinly veiled dog whistle for race issues. I'm not here for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but if you're an American and you cross the border illegal to Canada, what happens?
If you're not caught, I think you just live in Canada.
No, if you're caught.
Oh, if you're caught, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Canadian law.
They put you in a bus and they ship you back to America. That's what happens.
Well, I can't fact check you on the fly for that. I'm sure chat has opinions on that, but I don't care.
I believe that's true.
I don't look to other countries for models of how I should treat my own.
No, but think about it, right? Like, if let's say I do tax evasion in Romania, right, and I want to get rid of that, or like any crime, like not a violent crime, just something that's
we have we have extradition treaties with Mexico. If people commit crimes in Mexico,
yeah, but here's
here.
the thing, right? If I jump the border, if I manage to smuggle myself into another country, no one knows where I am, first of all. And secondly, the Romanian police is not going to be able to search for me in another country. They don't have the jurisdiction to do that.
Yeah, but so if they ever get registered
when you go to like if I go to US legally now, I have to go to the border control, right? I have a stamp on my passport. People know where I am. If I commit a crime, they can find me. They know that I'm in the US. They contact the US, and the US uses its jurisdiction and its authorities in order to bring me back in. But if you just hop a border and no one knows where you are, you can smuggle shit, you can traffic people.
Wait. All those things are crimes that you could do in your own country. The police don't have magical DNA based ID chips they can use to radar search you at any given point when you're in the boundaries of your original country.
They can
do that. All of that. We have extradition treaties. All of that applies if they move. If their credit information gets carried over, then that's easy to find them on. But if they ever get registered in any database in this country, then they can form an extradition treaty over that. What you're arguing for, you realize you're arguing a complete straw man, right? Because what you're arguing is illegal. I'm in favor of criminals who hop the border to avoid their charges.
If you're not going to check who enters your country,
I never said you don't check who enters your country. You check them and then you let them in. You check them, you get them a social security number, and then you let them into this country. I never said
that's not what's happening, right? That's not what.
No, because we have a shit immigration policy. I'm in favor of immigration and border reform. Absolutely. That's not the same thing as keeping people out. What I'm saying is I'm in favor of allowing these people to come in, and you're like, well, what if they're criminals? No one would be able to catch them.
No. What I'm saying is that a person who doesn't come through the door, right? Like a person who doesn't go through the official channels and goes through the back door, a person who just
there wouldn't be a back door. Wait, you realize? Wait, hold on, because you're saying some really fucking dumb shit right now. There is always going to be a back door. There's no way to 100% illegal immigration. Hold on. Nobody's saying, all we're doing is saying that there should be legal channels to enter the United States of America that are more accessible. So people who are legal, who don't commit crimes and want to just hop the border, can come in through those channels. And the people who don't want to do that, who just want to flee crimes, would have done so anyway. There's no way to stop that.
There are already legal channels. If I want to go to America, I go to the U.S. Embassy in Romania, and I sign the documents required in order to seek asylum in the United States. This is bullshit that you don't have the chance.
Whoa. Asylum seekers are vetted. Are you kidding me? Point to me right now data that indicates that there's a flood of criminals who are using the asylum seeking process with all of its verification.
You
don't realize you're not making a point.
The border without going through the official channels,
you don't realize you're not making a point.
The ones that are hold,
buddy. Those people are going to be a problem whether or not we allow legal channels for people to come in easily. Those people can't be stopped. Well, they can be stopped, but not through immigration policy because they're going to break the laws one way or another. What you're essentially asking right now is to do the same thing that Republicans accuse Democrats of doing in terms of gun control. You're asking for the legal, sensible immigration people, the people who just want to come in to enjoy a fair life in this country, to have their ability to come in denied because you want to deal with criminals who aren't going to abide by those systems anyway. You're unironically arguing for the imposition of immigration policies that'll only deter the people that we want coming into this country, and you are ignoring the people who we don't want to come in, who don't go through fucking asylum. Are you kidding? Do you have any idea how stringent the verification process is for America and for the United Nations? You are very keen on interrupting.
Even Donald Trump is not against
having people come in legally. Why'd you interrupt? I thought this was an anti-interruption debate.
Well, yeah, but
you unironically made the point. You unironically made the point that criminals will just go to asylums and sign that, and the asylum-seeking process will get them through. You wait, buddy. Calm down. Let's take a deep breath.
I'm very calm.
You interrupted me.
And my point.
Let's finish. Well, no. We were in the middle of my point. I know it's easy to forget.
Like you already have your mind set up, and you're just
hosts. I can't make a point if he's like this triggered. Look, this is very simple. Okay, there is no data to indicate that people are using the asylum-seeking process to escape crimes. Yes, you did. You said criminals can just sign.
Can you let me tell you what I said?
Why are you so keen on interrupting me? This is insane to me.
Because you're not tackling what I'm saying.
All right, what are you saying? Give me another.
What I'm saying is that the people who aren't criminals, the ones that are coming legally, right, the ones that actually want asylum, they can do so through different channels. They don't actually have to go to the U.S. border in order to seek asylum. They can go to an embassy in Mexico in order to find asylum. So yeah, the people who are finding asylum,
there are so many things wrong with what you're saying right now. For one, entering a country, entering its borders legally, and then declaring yourself an asylum seeker is a legal process recognized by international law that America has been failing to uphold its end on. Asylum seekers who come into our borders are not illegal immigrants. They're asylum seekers, and their right to do so is protected by law.
They're asylum seekers the moment the U.S. vets their asylum.
No, they are not. Yes, no, yes, you are not familiar with international law. Yes. They are asylum seekers by definition.
If someone comes and crosses the border, they're not an asylum seeker until they actually have the papers and the documentation.
No.
They can request the asylum, like they have the right to request, but the request can be denied.
I can't engage with your delusion on this issue. When they come into this country, they have a legal right to then present themselves to United States official and declare themselves asylum seekers, at which point they will be kept in reasonable accommodations until the matter of their asylum seeking can be meted out by the state. You have to show up at the border. These people who are coming up here are following the legal procedure, and we're putting them in concentration camps. What's more, I wasn't even arguing about asylum. Hold on, buddy. Come on, man. No, buddy. Wait. We're trying to do the no interrupting thing. I'm very willing to meet you in the middle when it comes to civility, okay? Now, I'm not just talking about asylum seekers. I think everyone should be able to come up here and inquire through legal channels in a much easier way than they do now, their ability to get into the United States of America. We don't do that right now. Our immigration policy is fucking insane. People have to wait like decades to get in. Our citizenship requirements are incredibly stringent. We take 1% of the fucking asylum seeker refugees that get recommended to us by the United Nations, and the people who come up here legally are put in concentration camps. So I have a problem with how our immigration is done right now, but nothing about how I want to reform my immigration policy in my country has anything to do with making it easier for criminals to come in. Nor does it allow people to just come up here willy-nilly without being tracked by the government. I'm not in favor of that.
I gotta say, you have some of the best concentration camps in the world if people are traveling halfway across the America in order to get to them.
Wait. Do you really want to die on this hill? Because they literally meet the definition of concentration camp. You're arguing feels over reals right now. They are by definition concentration camps. This is definitionally correct. No one's saying they're Nazi death camps. That's something you guys like to say in an attempt to hyperbolize what we're saying. Nobody is saying that. They are by definition.
So if I go on the street and I ask 10 people, what do they understand by concentration camps?
I don't give a fuck what the average person thinks. I don't give a fuck what the average person thinks. Wait, do you think that truth is consensus?
Why are you making the words in such a way to make something sound awful?
They're not. They are by definition concentration camps. I can't believe you're fighting this. I know you guys get really triggered. They're not concentration camps. They're detention centers. But no, if you Google concentration camp, you will find it meets the definition. I don't give a fuck what people think.
Instead of prison, I say cages. And I say America puts people into cages.
Some of those people are unironically kept in cages for a time.
Yes. That's not really accurate.
We had concentration camps here in the United States for the Japanese during World War II, correct?
Yes,
and those weren't Nazi death camps, but they were concentration camps.
And I think some of them weren't even Japanese; they were just Asian, but they put them in there just in case.
Concentration camp doesn't mean Nazi death camp. It just means it whatever fits the definition for concentration. If we can Google it, we can look up right now. What is this argument? If you ask 10 people on the street whether or not they think it's a concentration camp, I don't know. Are they Republicans or not? If you Google the definition, it's not just the definition either.
Chat.
Historians have come out.
Chat, right? If when you say concentration camp,
what do you mean
think
chat?
Of Nazis, press 1. If you think on concentration camps, the detention centers that America houses the immigrants that are coming over, press 2.
This is how you determine truth? Are you actually memeing? Am I getting creamed right now? Well, the definition and the historians disagree with me. So chat, bail me out here. Chat, if you think they're not concentration camps,
they're not even my chat. I don't even know who these people are, right?
Okay, well then if you don't care, if you don't know who these people are, let's settle this issue. Here's the definition of concentration camp. A place where large numbers of people, check, especially political prisoners or members of a persecuted minority, check, they're being kept for political reasons.
They're not
Hold on. For one, Yeah, they are being kept for a political reason, and they are prisoners. So by definition, political prisoners.
No,
and buddy, why? You can't handle it, my dude. And B,
no, buddy, you're absolutely delusional.
Right.
That means that
let me know
every
when you're
country in
done.
the world has concentration camps.
Let me know when you're done.
To V, are we sure it's political? Because these camps, didn't they exist under Obama as well?
Yeah, yes, and they were concentration camps then.
Right?
Yes, they were concentration camps then too. And leftists complained about it under Obama too. They've just gotten worse recently.
Is it political or is it security? And we're just over
security is a political issue, and I'm not done reading the list of issues.
Fair, yeah.
So,
sorry about that.
Political prisoners, buddy. Political prisoners, which they meet the technical qualification of because they're not criminals.
No, they can leave.
I swear to God.
Go back wherever they came from.
My buddy, my duder, I understand you're very excited for an opportunity to overwrite the definition, but I'm really trying to go through a single sentence without you getting triggered as fucking arguing over me. So let's hold on.
So, you're making assertions that have nothing to do with reality.
In a typical prison, people are kept there for crimes. However, asylum seekers don't commit a crime when they cross the border to to declare asylum.
That is a crime.
That's their legal.
That is literally a crime. I will even tell you the law that they're breaking.
Host. I actually need to be able to say a sentence with this guy. He's like really fucking mad.
Go ahead.
Okay, so political prisoners. They are, because they haven't committed a crime, they have a legal right under international law to declare their status as asylum seekers with the United States government after crossing the border. So because they haven't committed a crime and their detention is a matter of political determination, that is a political prisoner by definition, and a member of a persecuted minority. So that's them. They're Hispanic people. If you want to argue like sociological definition of persecuted minority, we can. Are deliberately imprisoned in a relatively small area with inadequate facilities. Tons of doctors have weighed in on the extent to which the concentration camps fail to meet the basic needs and like humane requirements of people being housed in small centers. Sometimes to provide forced labor or await mass execution. So that part at the end there was prefaced by sometimes, meaning that it is not inherently intrinsic to the definition of concentration camp. So these are concentration camps. If you want to argue that concentration camps are sometimes valid, that's fine. That's a reasonable argument. But to argue against the definition itself is ludicrous. It fits the...
You have managed to bend the definition like a pretzel. First
I read it out loud.
They can leave. They can leave whenever they want. They can go back, right? So Nazi Germany, for example, the Jewish people couldn't leave. Right?
Yeah.
That's the
Wait,
difference.
again, I know you're very confused right now. Not all concentration camps are the same.
The Japanese
people, one at a time, guys. One at a time.
Concentration camps couldn't leave. Right? These people can leave whenever they want. If I hop the border in the United States as a white person, as a majority, I will also be put in one of these concentration camps. And finally, they do commit a crime. When you cross the border illegally, not through the official channels, but you just go and then you cross it without having a reason to go to the US.
They're in prison.
You're giving him like multiple points back to back to back, and he can't respond.
Yeah,
to
like
all
he's crazy triggered. I literally just read the definition out loud.
Bring 3 points, and then he's just going to interrupt me when I say one.
We can discuss it point by point. All I was doing was reading the definition. You were like seething to get a word in edgewise, but we can discuss this. So for one, comparisons to. I'll let you finish. Okay.
Yeah,
comparisons to. I thought you were finished. You stopped talking for a second. Can we do it point by point?
Let's do it like this.
So for one, we
please,
can. I
let's do
can't.
Do like this, okay?
Do you want to? Is this a duet? Are we meant to talk over one another? This is insane. I've never had somebody talk over me this relentlessly. This is like fucking wild.
If the moderator just mutes one of us when the other one is speaking, would that be okay with you?
I mean, sure. I don't care. Can you exercise some self-control like an adult so we can proceed without like mommy and daddy?
And it's very hard to reciprocate.
You're okay. So let's go by this one by one. So for one, it doesn't matter whether or not they're like Nazi death camps. Different types of concentration camps can be different. This one still meets the definition. For two, they absolutely cannot leave whenever they want. There have been United States citizens that have been detained there against their will for multiple weeks. The process of being detained there, it's not like one of them can just go like, quit, I'm out, and then be allowed out. that doesn't happen. The only conditions upon which some of them are allowed to leave, very often without their fucking children, is if they're willing to go back south of the border. However, asylum seekers have a legal right to stay within the borders of this country until their asylum status can be determined by America. So, to hold these people prisoner in a concentration camp until you, in violation of international law, deport them from your border, I would consider this to not violate the definition of concentration camp. Why can't you just say, okay, they're concentration camps, but they're like, fine? Like, why do you have to argue like meaninglessly? You struggle against the definition. It's very weird. I'm down to have an actual convo about this, but like, this is lost ground.
We can continue to hold on. Okay, yeah. Go ahead and make your point, and then we're going to take just a short break to read the Streamlabs and stuff that came in, and then because we're at the halfway point now anyway. Absolutely. Go ahead and make your point, V, and then if there's anything Vosh wants to say after that, we'll let him. But eventually, we got to stop it somewhere.
All right. So the first point you brought up is that they are prisoners, and I disagree with that because. Like, for example, the Japanese camps that the U.S. had, the Japanese couldn't leave, even if they wanted to go back to Japan. But as you mentioned, these people can leave if they want to go back south of the border. The second point is that you call them asylum seekers, and according to international laws, they have to be granted asylum. No, the correct thing is that they are asylum requestees. They can request asylum, which can either be agreed or declined by the U.S. government. So until they actually get the legal term of asylum seeker, they are simply just people that might or not be asylum seekers, right? So I don't think that this is a concentration camp, even by the definition that you gave.
Okay, so to cap this off, for one, the degree to which you are able to leave if you have a right to be there does not change the fact that they're concentration camps. Saying that the Japanese concentration camps weren't actually concentration camps if they would have been allowed to leave the United States and go back to Japan would have been an equally brain-dead point. They have a right to be there. Asylum seekers have a right to be here. If I Google obtaining asylum in the United States, it says you must be physically present in the United States until the asylum status can be determined. This is not illegal. This is in like agreement with international law. If their asylum is declined, then they can be removed from this country, not kept in concentration camps. They haven't been processed yet. They're being kept there until they're processed. And the place in which they are being kept, the place where they have a right to be, the United States of America, while that process is pending, is a concentration camp. There is absolutely no legalese, no rhetorical trickery that one can do to escape the totality of this definition and its validity. And I really wish that we, and by we I mean myself and sensible right-leaning people, could have an honest conversation about these camps, what they mean, how to address those issues, rather than like them just getting really mad because the definition makes it sound really mean, and they're not mean, they're good. It's really weird. No one's saying they're death camps. No one's saying they're being gassed. They're concentration camps. And we're going to need to use the correct terminology.
In order to be heard doesn't mean that I'm mad, okay? If you keep saying and try to gaslight me, saying that I'm mad, it's not going to change the reality. Okay. Secondly, they can seek asylum in plenty of the U.S. embassies all the way across the road from South America to the U.S. border. If you go into a U.S. embassy, it's considered to be on U.S. soil.
You have to be in U.S. soil to declare asylum.
Yeah, and a U.S. embassy is U.S. soil.
Yes, or you could arrive at the border. It's their right to do that. Just because they have alternatives doesn't mean they don't have a right to do this.
No, but if you're going to do that,
it doesn't matter. They have a right to do it.
You're basically going to stretch the facilities.
Okay, so if you're saying, if I may, one final sentence.
Yes.
Yeah. All of your this argument here is incredibly vacuous. This, whether or not they had other places they could declare asylum from, doesn't change the fact that they are A, legally allowed to do so from within the borders of the United States as contiguous nation, and B, that where there are is concentration camps. You're diverting this issue, changing
because they're not prisoners.
Other issues.
I disagree with the definition.
Right. I think
if you're a prisoner and you go to jail, you can't leave, period. There is no but.
This irrelevant. This has nothing to do with the definition of concentration camp. All right, yes, I think we've exhausted. I can see this argument to V, who is more confident in his ignorance than I will ever be in my facts.
Well, thank you. I just live up to the right wingers' idea of being a bigot and an ignorant person.
I never called you a bigot. You're just unwilling to accept.
Well, no, but as a right winger, they come in a package. Usually when you.
Yes, right wing people are bigots, but.
We're gonna have Billy read off these Streamlabs. Go ahead.
If I don't read these Streamlabs.
Oh, and also everyone, please like the stream. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already subscribed. Yeah, Vosh, if you need a moment to step away, that's cool.
Yeah. If I don't read these Streamlabs, we're not gonna get to our goal tonight, and we only just broke 50%.
Yeah. In order to have a bonus show, I mean, we might have to stream. We might have to not do a post show and keep streaming after the debate is over.
Possibly.
Yeah. Go ahead and read them off. And we will read yours if you want to say anything about this. Also, we have a poll. We have a Twitter poll. If you want to vote on who you thought did better in this, the link is in the description. Right now, Vosh is at 73%, but hardly anyone's voted on it. So we'll see.
So Larry Hill gave us some love via Super Chat. Solvis said kick V.
Sorry.
It's a meme.
Kick V. That's a meme, yeah. I saw Mr. Naughty Priest became a member for 6 months in a row.
Thank you, Mr. Naughty Priest.
I always love to see him engaging with the channel, fond memories of the priest.
The priest.
Juggernaut Demon said, not only do trans women get the benefit of higher bone density and testosterone from the offset, but the large dose of estrogen pills, more than normal women, actually makes their bones even denser. So they're I guess they're superhuman. Oh, sorry, Vosh got a mute. I mean, you might be talking to his people. Juggernaut Demon, this huge amount of estrogen isn't present in normal women, so it does affect them. Interesting.
Wait, am I audible right
Bob
now?
Demon says, we can hear you now. Yeah.
I want to contest that claim that that trans women have hyperbones.
Hit us with your best shot.
I'm just saying. I just want to make it known, okay? Trans women do not have hyperbones. If you're like friends with a trans woman, do not like casually hit them with a bludgeon, knowing that their bones will sustain the impact with no injury. Okay, they actually have like normal bones. But all right,
most trans women, and this is probably transphobic of me to say, most trans women are just men who are too weak to be men, right? So they switch sides.
What?
Those tiny little manlets, they were like, nah, this isn't working for me. I gotta be a woman, right?
No.
Well, yeah,
actually, what my stream argues is that all men are too weak to be men, and that we should all be made trans women. All of us, including myself, that we should be force feminized because we're not living up to the sort of idealistic characteristics that are meant to define masculinity. So we should all be made trans women.
I agree with that, except for me, because I'm so full of estrogen already because of my fat man tits and my long hair. Like I am probably
about
more
a year
man.
and a half ago, Billy weighed 600 pounds. And where are you at now?
Like 350-ish.
350.
Oh, that's a pretty huge change. Congratulations.
Long story short, like this is why I can be a little transphobic, because trans people misgender me all the time.
Yeah, it does happen to him.
All the time.
Yeah,
they
he
come
can't
up to
grow
me.
facial hair. He has no body hair.
And
like, really?
They assume that I'm trans as well. I've had multiple conversations with trans women who are like, so like, what do you do for how long have you been trans? I'm like, I literally am not transitioning. I'm just, I have estrogen because of how fat I am.
Can I sell you on the abolition of gender altogether? I feel like that's the next big step. That's the big meme I'm always ready for. Abolishing the concept of gender.
Yeah, let's get through these really quick here.
All right.
Rapid fire.
Brian Boyd said, hey guys, it would make my girlfriend Kayla's day if you could wish her a happy birthday. Keep up the good work, guys. P.S. She's the person that got me into you, by the way. Hell yeah, Kayla, happy birthday. We all love you no matter what gender you are, even if you don't have a gender. Even if you're uno gender and you're the supreme gender.
I came up with
happy
uno
birthday,
gender.
friend.
Because people were the dumb meme like there's only two genders. I was doing the what? No, there's only one.
You're not even half right. There's one gender.
One
dumbass. Gender. Legacy A God said Jessica sent over 100 different women messages asking if it's okay to ask little girls for tampons, and in some instances they asked if it was okay to look for the ones with a string hanging out. Tim Allen. Yeah, and I think we all agree that Jessica is a sick person.
Stuff, but it's not because she's trans, right? It's because she's a sick fuck, right?
Yeah, and she might even be abusing the laws that were put in to protect trans people, but that doesn't mean those laws don't have their place. Even if somebody like this is abusing them to be a sick person. We have to deal with that on a case-by-case basis and not throw out these protections altogether just because one person's abusing them. I think we have these things in place because our society is not catching up with itself. And there's a lot of new trans people coming out of the woodwork because it seems to be more okay and there's more support for it, where they would have been pushed aside and hidden and not being able to speak out as much. And our society hasn't caught up with that yet, the same way we used to spit on black people when they got on our school buses, and we used to fucking denigrate all types of different people than us. And it took a while for us to catch up with what was socially acceptable and what wasn't. And usually denigrating somebody based on their sex or religion or creed was looked down upon, even though I think religion sucks, and we should make fun of all the Christies. And
we're all going to be trans one day.
Honestly, I'm already fucking trans without choice, right? I just fatted my way into it, and it's not that bad. Egghead Show donated $2, said I dress up like my mother Gabbard and stab people like Norman Bates did with his mommy. Gabbard 2020 # I need a mother figure. Yeah, Egghead, thank you for your support. You're always welcome on the show. I love your hot takes. Singe Graphics said timers on debate topics, Ben. I'm a little too late for that, dude. We're kicking it.
Yeah.
We're having a Holy Ghost party with V and Vosh tonight. Appreciate it. Cinesius says I believe that all right wingers should be force feminized. So force feminize V.
Well, I do have a squeaky voice.
We'll work on that.
Manliness,
we'll work on that.
I'm a gender capitalist when it comes to this topic.
Yeah.
Force feminize V, chat. I want to see you spamming it.
Let's force feminize V. Leafy is here, said, I noticed Billy looking down at his phone, I assume. Is he texting his sugar daddy Onision? P.S. Do you guys think Bunty King has a dead channel and is now a lol cow? He recently left the internet.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with
Bunty
him.
King's
Whatever.
on like a little vacay, and who knows? He'll come back and probably just play video games because he's not a fan of the politics-driven content that he was a part of 2 years ago. Because as most of you know, most people back then aren't a fan of it now. And if you still stick around for it the way it was 2 years ago, you're pretty much who you were making fun of when you were anti-SJW, because the pendulum just swung in front of the fucking put the mirror in front of the snowflakes, calling the snowflakes. It's all just a bunch of crybaby whiner bitch boys, and I think most people jumped out of that anyways. But that's just my opinion.
Wasn't the only thing I know Bunty King from was that he played defense for that one guy who made the Jewish question video. Fuck, I forget the name of that guy.
JF?
No, though fuck him. It was some young. He had a young voice. And he did a video and he was like, a Mouthy Buddha.
Mouthy Buddha.
Mouthy
okay.
Buddha.
ContraPoints?
It was Mouthy Buddha.
Oh.
Jeff Holiday said it in the chat there.
I got a bad memory. Just keep it up.
Troy Davidson said, housing is a non sequitur argument.
Damn.
Mr. Red said, what is Vosh's opinion of left-wing people like Kyle, Progressive Voice, or Jimmy Dore who don't accept the Russia interference narrative?
Kyle Kalinske.
I assume so, yeah. Who don't accept the Russia interference narrative.
I think that there's a delicate balance to be had here, because on one hand, there are a lot of people who will just be like, there are no systemic problems in the US. Hillary won a perfect campaign. It was Russia's fault. Russia. And that's pretty fucking stupid. But there are also people who ignore that Russian interference entirely. And I think that I think both are a little bit dumb. I think that we should be cogent to the fact that unless we are very careful, there are ways in which foreign powers can influence our elections, and that seems to be just sort of corroborated by the evidence. Yeah, by foreign powers.
Not just foreign powers, though. It's our Donald Trump exists because he took over the conspiracy theorist narrative. He jumped into politics based off of the birther argument, and he gets all these people who are conspiracy theorists, so facts no longer matter. He's negated facts altogether, and he gets people who will just believe in what they want to believe in, and he steers them behind him. And that's the same thing with Russia, because facts don't matter. They can just propagate whatever they want, and a small group of people will champion it because it appeals to them. It's the same reason why the anti-SJW crowd blew up. It became an echo chamber, and it fed off of itself, and people jumped on the bandwagon because they were so interested in feeling validated for once, because they were left out of the entire argument when it was facts, right? Because nobody cared about fucking facts. Now we have alternative facts and fake news on both sides where people argue about it.
Yeah,
it's not just Russia.
No, it's not just Russia. Anyone who makes that argument is delusional. I don't think it's just Russia. It does point to a broader issue that right now the way like our systems operate makes it very easy for bad faith actors to sort of seize control of a platform and maneuver it in a direction. These people are almost always fascists or fascist leaning. So I think that like a broader approach towards how we deal with fascistic content, particularly online, is necessary if we're going to have literally any chance of making it another century.
Yeah. Well, we'll die out anyways, right? Global warming is on our side. Let's see. Queen Tide Pod said, debate night. Perfect birthday gift for me. Turned 23 on Thursday. Happy birthday, Queen Tide Pod. Big friend of the show.
Yeah.
Queen Tide Pod's been around for a long time and always been a positive member of our audience. Thank you for continually supporting us and everything you do. And we're glad we could be there for your damn birthday. A Jew for you says never again means close the camps.
Okay.
Hey. Blue 44 says concentration camps were first used by the Spanish against Cuban revolutionaries in the late 1800s, decades before World War II. Yeah, I don't think anybody really suggested they were invented by World War II, right? They were just perfect.
No, my point is that you keep people prisoners there and they can't live, period. If you go into the U.S. seeking asylum and you get placed in one of these detention centers and you want to leave and return from where you came, there's nothing stopping you.
For one, that's not true. And for two, that doesn't change the fact that it's a concentration camp. They have a right to be here and they have a right to reasonable accommodations, which they are not currently receiving.
You just said that they can leave back if they want.
By the way, I found the opinion of Stephen Legomsky, an emeritus professor at WU in St. Louis, who says that a U.S. consulate or embassy is not a place where you can declare asylum. It has to be within the contiguous borders of the United States of America. So they have to come here and they have to stay here, and you're still keeping them in concentration camps, and saying that they can leave if they'll just leave the country is a violation of international law. They have a right to stay under reasonable
There is a process where you need to sort out the people who legitimately seek asylum than the ones who don't. So, yeah, they have to be placed somewhere. Now,
in reasonable
if there's a huge number of people that are seeking asylum, there's going to be overcrowding. And I know that they asked for more funding for these places. And there were several Democrats who voted against.
Yeah,
so
because most of the funding provisions, because a lot of the funding provisions went towards guards and a further militarization of the border, not actually towards increasing the comfort of the people living there. The argument you just made was justifying a concentration camp. Oh, there are a lot of people coming, and we have to keep them somewhere, and we have these camps that are already at the border. What you're doing is justifying them, and that's fine if you want them to be there, but that's what you're doing.
But every nation in the world does it. It's not like I'm asking
that doesn't change the definition. Why can't you just say, yes, I'm in favor of these concentration camps?
I've never heard the idea that
I forgot that I conceded this argument to you.
For people who are coming out of France.
So let's go over it. Let's go over it. So they meet the definition of concentration camp just by definition. They have by international law, a right to there. You were lying when you said that they could appeal for asylum seeker status from another embassy. And you're lying when you say that they you're lying when you say they can just leave, because it's not that simple. So you're wrong so far in every single point.
You said that they can be on U.S. soil in order to request it, because an embassy is U.S. soil. So I went by your definition.
No, they have to be on contiguous U.S. soil within the boundaries of the United States of America.
You didn't say that the first time. So I went by your
think we should know about these concentration camps.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Really nice.
You learned your counter arguments against concentration camp legitimacy from me? Did you just say that? Did I just hear you say, "Oh, well, because you said they have to be within the U.S., I assumed they could use embassies," and then you just went with that? That's how you get your data? You heard me use a turn of phrase, and you were like,
"I'm having a conversation with you, and you provided me with the definition." The reason I don't believe they're concentration camps is because they do not have the status of prisoners. Right. They can leave if they go back to their country. A prisoner cannot leave. I forgot I conceded this
argument to you. Never mind. My bad.
I learned it from you, Dad.
I learned it from watching you.
I want to finish these off really quick. Just really quick. I'll try and dash through these.
Do it.
PT Ham said FEMA Death Camp 1776 will commence again. Thank you. Non-authority said, dude, Billy, haven't seen DP for a long ass time, but you looking good.
Yeah, looking way different.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Postidus John said trans rights. Hell yeah.
Posadas John's a good comrade of mine.
Yeah. Ciancius says, this is why I wanted Volshan. V got destroyed. Damn, that's just a little too soon
There's
to call
it. There's still a poll up, and there's still like an hour left, so, you know.
Cruise said, calling it a concentration camp is an insult to us EU viewers. To be honest, detention centers are help center during the process of getting citizenship. How would you send back the people that would be denied access when they can be everywhere?
What? Just because they're kept in reasonable accommodations doesn't mean they turn into ghosts that the United States can't deport. Wait, what? That's a complete non sequitur. That's like the only, it's a false dichotomy. You either keep them in a concentration camp while you await their asylum-seeking status, or you let them free into the U.S. with no tracking so they can disappear like a ghost into the hedges. I think there's a reasonable middle ground there, like reasonable accommodation, or maybe some kind of a system of tracking, not like a fucking bracelet or anything, but just like, hey, if you want your asylum status to be validated, you have to return back to this courthouse on the 1st of every month to ensure that you're remaining in the area and that you're still a participating member of this community. Yeah, I think those are reasonable steps that could be taken. But there's a middle ground between concentration camps.
This is why I love the left, that they're so gullible and they trust people so much. What? You legitimately trust someone that might come there with ill intentions and just tries to sneak in the United States without actually wanting asylum.
We're talking about asylum seekers.
And you believe that literally everyone that shows up seeking asylum deserves asylum.
No, I'm saying
that. That's the thing, right?
You realize you're arguing against your own point here, right? The system for dealing with asylum seekers isn't equipped to deal with people who are just going to sneak into the country anyway. That already happens today by the hundreds of thousands. Arguing that we shouldn't keep our asylum seekers in concentration camps is going to lead to a rise in crime. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm going to need some fucking data on that one. Oh, no. The implication, yes, all the criminals are going to come in here and apply for asylum status, then disappear, even though hundreds of thousands of people already cross the border every single year with no supervision. Yes, the asylum, they would willingly risk engaging with the United States government and potentially implicating themselves in the future, rather than just crossing the border like thousands do already. Yes, excellent.
Man, you beat the living shit out of that straw man.
It wasn't a straw man. This is exactly what happens every single time right-leaning people try to discuss immigration issues. I'm like, maybe we shouldn't keep people who have legally applied for asylum status in concentration camps. And you're like, ha! You're opening the floodgates. MS-13 will swarm from the southern border.
Again,
no, there is absolutely no...
This is why I get angry. It's not because...
So you were angry then. Why'd you lie earlier and say you weren't angry just because your voice was raised?
Number one, you're interrupting me like you're doing now, which makes me interrupt you in return. And secondly, it's because you just manipulate everything that I say. I never mentioned MS-13 once. I never,
the left is so gullible. When all I had said was we should find better ways of housing asylum seekers.
My point is that if you want a good immigration system, you would make sure that there are certain official channels where people can come in. People who don't come in through the official channels should be deported immediately because they already went through the back door. And when you come in through the official channel, you get processed. And if you seek asylum and you legitimately have a case for seeking asylum, then you're let in. If not, you're being sent back. Why is that such a ridiculous system to have?
For one, I'm not going to take advice on sensible immigration for someone who unironically argued asylum seekers can apply for asylum from embassies because you just guessed they could. So that's one. For two, and this is very important, okay? How do you suggest asylum seekers be housed while the status of their asylum-seeking state is determined by the U.S. government? Because right now we have them in concentration camps, which is a violation of international law, reasonable accommodation and all that. How do you suggest we do it? Because when earlier I suggested something and you were like, the left is so gullible, even though there's literally no evidence to suggest that the policy that I proposed would lead to a substantial increase in illegal immigration.
No, you just have to rely on the faith of people that if someone shows up and says, yeah, I'm seeking asylum, you can be like, all right, just show up at this.
Where do you suggest we house them? We've had a process for this before where we house them reasonably. Asylum isn't like a new concept. We have them in concentration camps now. Where do you suggest they be put? You're literally arguing like, we could put them in concentration camps that are not actually concentration camps, or we can let them loose because the left is incredibly
actually gullible. Vosh, someone sent us an article from Time that says here, the Trump administration to hold migrant children at base that served as World War II Japanese internment camp.
Yeah, we're not even talking about the fact that children are being separated from parents, as though that's justified under asylum-seeking international law.
If you're
the trends here are super clear. Like, if we can all pull our head out of our asses for a second, the United States is not new to treating marginalized groups of people poorly, and what's more, we know that these camps are a bit of political theater, because the amount of illegal immigration we've been contending with has actually been decreasing steadily for 20 years now. So we know for a fact that there wasn't like an immediate national emergency that required we build these camps to house these people and separate the children from their mothers. This is just part of a broader political scheme where we deprive power from minority groups in an effort to consolidate the power of our own base. It's not new. It's not especially like high IQ, big brain sociology memes. It's an obvious outcome that anyone watching the Obama administration's treatment of immigrations could have predicted. This is super, super simple stuff. But every time I want to discuss that, and like maybe, because I want open borders. I know that's like a really far-fetched future thing. But maybe there's like a way we can work to compromise or improve the policy until that point. But we can't do that as long as there are people who are screeching about like using the term concentration camp and, well, actually they can apply for asylum status at embassies, and, well, actually they can leave anytime they want, even though they can't, and, well, actually it's gullible of you to not keep them in concentration camps. I can't have convos in that framework. It's incredibly detrimental to our ability to find national solutions to serious problems.
So there's 3 points here. First of all, if you commit a DUI and you have a kid in your car, you're going to be separated as you're being placed into jail.
Except they're not committing crimes.
Second of all, yes, they are. When they
they're not applying for asylum status.
They are committing a crime.
No, they're not. No, I can't continue. You just stated a factually incorrect thing. I can't let you continue after saying a lie.
I let you finish.
No, well, yes, because everything I said was truthful, so it was easy for you to sit on your ass. Okay.
I disagree with. I didn't interrupt you.
This is very simple.
The second thing is that there is a case recently where a Romanian woman went to Germany and she didn't pay for bus fare. And she was there with her 1-year-old kid. The police arrested her and they separated her from her child, which was put into the Children Protection Agency. This is what every single country around the world does. There is nothing special or different about the United States of America.
Except applying for asylum from within the borders of a country is legal.
Is that you say, oh, we're saying concentration camps because this is the legal definition, but you have politicians who are saying, oh, concentration camps, never again. Obviously trying to tie this with the emotional appeal of the Holocaust.
Okay, yeah, so let's deal with those one by one. So the second one is irrelevant because I don't give a fuck what other countries do. I like to focus on this country and how we can improve these policies. For one, they don't commit a crime. I know you'll never believe me because you're like unwilling to Google it or something. Well, yeah, no, feel free. So what they do, and we can discuss it specifically, is that they commit a civil infringement, the punishment for which is pending following their approval as an asylum seeker. So if they're approved for asylum, it's absolved. And if they're not, the punishment for the civil infringement is deportation because they're not approved. What it is not is committing a crime. I'm sorry, like you can do...
It's a misdemeanor according to the National Act of 1965 of the Immigration.
Yes.
Prohibits non-nationals from entering or attempting to enter the United States at any time or place which has not been designated by immigration officers.
Yes, and then look up international law, which we subscribe to for asylum seekers. I literally can't argue with you if you're like, misdemeanor cross-border, that means concentration camp and children separated from parents. Listen, this is a policy that's been around for a while, okay? I'm going to say it one more time and then I'm going to drop it because I don't think you're like I don't know if there are enough like ridges in your gray matter to absorb this information. It is a civil issue when people cross the border to declare asylum, not a criminal one. They are to be kept in reasonable accommodations until the status of their asylum seeking is to be confirmed. This is not the same as committing a crime and being put in jail. And even if that was the case, even if it weren't for the fact that this is well within the bounds of asylum law, this is a misdemeanor to cross the border without claim to asylum. Can you imagine committing a misdemeanor and then getting put in a detention facility and having your kids separated for you, illegally firing some fireworks, drinking at a boardwalk? Well, there go your fucking kids. That is the level of criminality that you are saying justifies their presence within the concentration camps. So I can't, that's all there is to it. Like, you can argue against a brick wall for all I care on that particular issue because it's settled. But for your third point there, which you've now brought up apropos of nothing, the whole like using the term concentration camp invokes like the Nazi thing. For one, I have two arguments to this. For one, that's like saying, you can't tell me I'm abusive just because I hit my girlfriend. I heard an abusive guy once killed his girlfriend. It's a complete non sequitur. Just because the term concentration camp can refer to worse and better things does not mean that it's invalid to use the term here. Second of all, even if that wasn't the case, I am fine with the Nazi comparisons. Our country is headed down a pretty scary road when it comes to how we nationally like congregate the power of whites against racial minorities. And I don't think, and you know, the Holocaust didn't just happen out of nowhere. There are warning signs. Drawing comparisons are ways to help people understand how those warning signs might be applicable in research today.
All right. So first of all, I wanted to call you disingenuous for trying to pretend that there is no attempt to compare the concentration camps with the Nazi death camps, especially when politicians are saying never again over and over. Secondly, there is a difference between citizen and non-citizens. I know you socialists can't seem to get it, but for example, in Britain, when Brittany Pettibone went into the United Kingdom, she was deported and she didn't commit a crime or a misdemeanor, right? She was placed in jail. She was being held there for more than 24 hours, being interrogated.
This has nothing to do with asylum seeking. Why do you keep talking about stuff that's not relevant?
And it is very relevant.
It has nothing to do with the status of asylum seekers. You've dodged the question every time I've asked you.
Look, you keep interrupting me. If you want to have a monologue, I can just leave.
Because you're just talking about random shit. What does this have to do with the status of asylum seekers in the United States?
About MS-13 and about,
what does this have to do with the status of asylum seekers in the United States? The difference is, the difference between you and me monologuing is that when I monologue, I'm responding to your dumb fuck points, and then when you go with your dumb fuck points, you ignore what I just said and go on another set of dumb fuck points.
That you're actually right.
That's the difference between the monologue. I'm responding to what you're saying, and then
you're just a stupid socialist who doesn't understand anything. And
you're so mad with the ad homs coming in hot. Listen up, buddy. The reason why I'm okay interrupting you is because you're just going off. You're either lying or you're invoking irrelevant examples.
Doesn't mean that it's not an ad hom.
What? What it doesn't mean it's not an ad. Listen, when I talk, I'm responding to your points. When you talk, you're inventing new points to desperately cover the lost ones that you just backed away from.
That is your political bias.
Okay, then answer this question right now. What should we do with asylum seekers who legally apply for asylum from within the border of the United States of America, who are legally entitled to protection and fair, safe accommodations within this country, who are not allowed, who the state is not allowed to detain them or to take their kids from them?
Spend more money in order to build more facilities.
More concentration camps?
Yes, more concentration camps, as you call them. Because every country in the world has these types of quote-unquote concentration camps. Name me a country where you can just hop the border in an area that's not designated by the immigrant officer, and you're just going to be allowed to go in and do whatever you want.
The only way that you can justify this is by pretending that just because other countries do bad things, that we have to sink to that level. I mean, if that's the point you want to concede to, yes, it's fine for us to have concentration camps because the world is shit and it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, I aspire to a slightly higher level of performance for the country that I live in.
The communist goal. Okay, comrade, but I'm saying It's not just some countries. It's not just
this is pathetic.
Every single
I'm
nation
sorry.
in the world, including the socialist ones.
No, the idea that every country on Earth has concentration camps. Can you provide me documentation indicating that the Western European countries also have concentration camps where they keep asylum seekers? Can you provide me some documentation?
Yes, the Calais jungle. Look it up.
Excuse me?
The Calais jungle in France.
Can you spell that for me? Because I'm an Amerifat. I can't.
Calias.
Jungle, France.
Calais jungle.
Let's find out. You do realize that even if this is the case, that isn't an excuse, right? Under international law, they are allowed to have reasonable accommodation.
No,
you saying, oh, well, other countries do bad.
Law. You think that if someone claims something, then they're automatically that. If you go into an area...
No, they are meant to be kept in reasonable accommodations until the status of their asylum seeking... I can't. All right. I forgot. I concede. I don't know why. Listen, I am on a fundamental level. I am on a fundamental level an entertainer.
Hold on.
I am an entertainer, and it is important to me.
Camp until they're processed.
It is important to me as an entertainer.
Hold on, wait. No one can hear what either one of you is saying right now.
So I'm conceding. I'm taking the L right now. It's V. If you calm down, you'll realize that you've won. You've won, V. It's okay. Listen, I am an entertainer. My job, in addition to the politics stuff, is to keep my chat entertained. Dangling like children's toys in front of you to try and keep you entertained is like really losing its flavor. I'm pretty sure my chat's bored. So you have walked back every single point, and now the point you're at is, well, other countries do bad things, so it's okay when we do it.
No,
if that's the point we want to leave it at, I'm okay with that. That's fine.
You can't reinvent the wheel. And what I'm saying is, you keep saying the international law, they have to be placed in suitable conditions. And when I say, all right, so build more suitable conditions, you're like, oh, so more concentration camps. And if that's the case, then the international law is saying that they need to be placed into concentration camps according to international law. So what I'm suggesting is that you build more.
Okay, so would you improve the conditions of them to make them better?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Then they would stop. And would you stop separating the kids and the parents?
If you can prove that the kid belongs to the parent, I would stop separating. But if there's
If two parents arrive, if two parents and a kid arrive together from across the border, they have to show their fucking documents, or the state gets to yank the kid away. What kind of wait, are you actually are you actually a fascist?
Straight, right? If you're a child trafficker and someone asks you,
this is not how you solve child trafficking. This is not how you solve child trafficking. Well, hold on, wait, he's going on another dumb fuck point. Can I actually have like 60 uninterrupted seconds? Okay, this is really easy, okay? So if your argument here is that we should improve the conditions of the camps and stop ripping kids from parents, I agree with you. Then they would stop being concentration camps. Then they would become reasonable detainment or reasonable facilities for them to be kept in, which is all I am asking, to adhere to international law instead of what we have now, which is like a humanitarian crisis with parents being separated from children and thousands of doctors stepping up to say that the conditions of the camps are completely unacceptable. So if you want that, cool, we're on the same side. Second of all, the idea that separating kids from parents and putting them in separate cages, then like losing track, like this is how you fix child trafficking, is fucking hysterical. And I have never seen a single criminologist ever make that argument. It's like the idea like, oh, actually, they're trying to deal with lice by separating the two. It's a anti-lice measure. Like, you can make up whatever you want. It's not justified. I'm super done with this topic. It's been 2 hours. I think we've gone over every aspect of it that we can. You have walked back on every fucking point.
I know you don't want me to get my things out, so you just want to monologue over
You can talk however long you want, because I'm done on this point, and when you're done talking, we can move on to the next one.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. So the thing with child trafficking, which you brought it up, I have an article from the New York Times saying that as migrant families are reunited, some children don't recognize their mothers. And it's really easy to understand why. First of all, if you have a kid, you can get more benefits than if you come without the kid. You're more likely to be processed. So there's a lot of people who will take a child and claim it is theirs. And secondly, if you're a child trafficker and someone asks you, is this your kid? Are you going to actually say, yeah, I'm just a child trafficker and this is not really my kid? No, the correct solution, someone comes to the border and has a kid, if he can show that he has the paperwork and that his kid is his, then okay, you don't separate them. If not, you separate them, and you ask the kid if that's his parent. You ask the parent things about the kids, and if the story converges, then you put them together. I think this is beyond reasonable, and you can't just assume that literally everyone who comes in and has a kid and no papers, then yeah, sure, that child is theirs. If you go and a policeman stops a car with a man and a kid inside that looks suspicious for whatever reason, they're also going to try to ask if, is this your father? Is this person like you? Yeah. And if the kid says something else, then yeah, they're going to be separated and further investigation is going to be done.
Okay, so I'll do one quick follow-up because I lied deviously to earlier. So again, asylum seekers have a legal right to be here. They have done nothing to deserve having their kids ripped from them. There is no evidence whatsoever that this stops child trafficking. This is not something we would do to anyone else who committed a misdemeanor. Even if you ignore the asylum status thing, it is a misdemeanor. No one who commits a misdemeanor has children separated from them. And there is absolutely no evidence from any regulatory agency or research agency that I have ever seen to indicate that the current policy of separating children from adults is doing anything to mitigate any social issues. It is just, these are post hoc justifications being made by somebody desperately trying to justify a humanitarian crisis. Like, you have no fucking idea what any of these things do, how they affect society, what benefits they might have. You're just thinking like, well, intuitively, like, the police might, if a kid looks suspicious in a car, which is a far cry from every single child being brought up from legally residing asylum seekers being thrown from their parents and kept in separate, understaffed, under-equipped, inhumane facilities. So it's been a good meme. Can we talk about like gender abolitionism? That's a fun one. This isn't even my fucking subject.
So how do you explain the article that migrant families are united and kids don't recognize their mothers?
There are 1,000 explanations that I can provide.
All right, go through some of them.
Okay, for one, trauma. After being after being separated, kids who have had traumatic experiences, the bureaucracy of migration can absolutely be one, often have dissociative effects concerning their parents. This is absolutely one. For two, they could have been mismatched in the chaos. For three, I'm just going to stick to the one. Yeah, because I don't need to like prove 80,000 possible like alternatives to you. You're the one who's assuming it's because of child trafficking.
I don't know what traumatic event I would have to go through in order not to recognize.
Yeah, you're not 4, okay? I mean, you're demonstrating about the level of cognitive ability.
And they go into hospitals where I work.
Yeah, there's a difference between going into a hospital and going through a migration process. See, listen, I actually care about like facts and data because I like making fact-based statements. So when I read one article saying that some migrant children are having difficulty recognizing their parents, they don't recognize their parents anymore, I don't immediately go like, yes, the policy of separating kids from their parents at the border is justified because this is evidence that there is a child trafficking problem that is being addressed through this. There are like 80 different points of contention that you would have to establish to make that like a claim, like a valid, sound, logical claim, and you can't establish them because there is no data to do so. You are wildly drawing strings between a news article you saw one time that could have 1,000 other
talking
explanations.
About fake birth certificates and fake families and migrant search at the border.
Yes, and do you have evidence to suggest that separating all children from all parents at the border is a way to solve this? Because that's what I like. I like data.
How would you solve it? Like you have.
I don't know if it's a wait. That's it. Wait, that's irrelevant. Can you indicate to me that this is a way to solve it?
Yeah, I already gave my solution.
No, data.
Them, you interview them both. Yeah, and see if the story converges.
No. I want data, not your opinions. Is there data to indicate that the policy of separating
children from parents? So if there's not a
parents,
scientist with a lab suit sitting behind me, and I make something, and I make a reasonable claim, you're going
it's
to be.
It's not reasonable
no data,
if there's no data. It's not reasonable. It's intuitive, and I don't give a fuck what your intuition tells you to say. Reasonable claims are ones that are backed up by evidence.
Make sure that a person that is coming on the border and is saying that this is his kid. How do you know that it is really his kid or not?
I can answer that, but you're whataboutisming right now. This is not an answer to the question. I'm saying that right now you have no evidence to support your claim that this is an effective way of dealing with this problem, and your response is, well, how would you deal with it? That's not really an answer, my dude.
The United States is dealing with this problem, and I think it's a reasonable way. But if
I
have
an excellent idea.
By all means, go ahead.
I have an excellent idea for you.
Vosh, go ahead.
What if we kept these people in humane facilities where they are allowed to stay while their asylum process is being done, and while they are staying there, a state psychiatrist or a team of psychiatrists and doctors whose job it is to ensure the welfare of these people, they also add to their list of priorities a series of psychological tests done for the participants to try and suss out any people who are there for illegitimate reasons. That would be humane, and I can point to data to indicate that psychiatric referral is a good way to determine whether or not a child is being trafficked, whether for sex or for other reasons. So that's my data-driven answer right there, that keeping them in humane facilities and just subjecting them to interviews from psychiatrists and doctors and what have you, that would solve the problem. There is no data to suggest that separating parents and kids solves the problem. So there's my solution.
Well, let's move on from this topic, because I would have something else to add to this, but then you're just going to have a rebuttal to what I say, and we're going to be stuck on this part.
I'd move on too if I were you. Yeah, let's go on.
Let's.
No, if you want, I can give you my rebuttal.
No, it's okay. Wait.
Please,
you can propagandize for as long as you want. I need to pee really quickly. Just give me 30 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, and then
we'll finish off the things
do
real
it,
quick.
Please.
We had Ciancius say, "I'm so glad I helped make this happen. I've been watching DP forever and Vosh for a few months. You've made this trans girl very happy. Force feminize everyone. P.S. I'm drunk."
Whoa.
Please linked us to the Trump migrant children for it. That was awesome to share at an opportune time, especially by paying money to share it. Good job. Postidus John said, "V triggered. Trans rights again?" Calificent said, "Everyone in the United States, regardless of immigration status, is entitled to the constitutional rights of due process. Asylum seekers did not commit a crime, and they can't be imprisoned for something they might do." The bones
it's not imprisonment if people can leave. Jesus fucking Christ. Like, if you're imprisoned in jail, can you leave under any circumstance? No. So how can you say that if you're placed in a center, if you want to stay in the country, there is a process which involves someone being placed in a center while waiting for the paperwork to come. If they don't want to, they can just leave and cross the border again. Like, I genuinely don't understand how you can consider that to be in prison. Like, look, if I go to Berlin,
part of the problem is
are we still memeing in here? Are we still memeing and streaming?
If I go to Berlin and for some reason I lose my passport in the plane, I'm going to be kept in the airport. I'm not allowed to leave. I cannot go outside of the airport. That doesn't mean that I'm in prison. At any point, I can just take another flight back to Romania because they know the flight that I have come from. But I wouldn't call that a prison.
All right, I know. We know. We're all good. I'm taking the L on this one. Your confidence is indefatigable. All right.
Zones. I wish it was as scary as Vash thinks it is. So.
Wait, why do you wish it was scary? That's kind of weird.
I guess he wishes that the concentration camps were more concentrated.
If only these concentration camps were a little more scary.
Yeah.
That's a little weird, but all right. I mean, whatever gets you off.
When you get concentrated juice, you just add water. So I guess when you get concentrated camps, just add a little more scare. A little more fright.
You boil it a little bit to get to distill it. So it's already pretty distilled because it's down near the southern border where it's pretty hot. Just cook a little bit of that juice off and kablam. Gas chambers.
Easy peasy. Fire under their feet. Make them burn. Make them dance. Moose Streams says, "Ask this both guests if they love black people."
Do you love black people?
Do you love black people?
I love black people.
That's a simple answer.
V, do you love black people?
I actually do not have any single black person that I know in Romania. I think if a black person came here, people would scream and holler because they would think the Russians have developed a new chemical weapon or something.
Because they are children of the lie.
No wonder.
Amazing.
Ciancius chimed in again and said, "V, you lose. Force feminize me and V." Ciancius just wants to be feminized and bring V down with her, which I think is not constitutional. You can't force feminize people. No. Our forefathers didn't come in as the foremothers.
What if they made forced feminization camps?
Hold on, really quickly. Hold on, really quickly. You can't do that. Okay, when you just said, I'm pretty sure half my chat just came. If they do that, they're not going to give me money because they'll be spent. Okay, so we gotta calm it down on the.
On who thinks the cockatiel is the most beautiful? Yeah. V, do you think Dusty the Cocktail is a beautiful bird?
I think that's very pretty.
You have to show me a picture. I'm not familiar with the Romanian equivalent of a cockatiel.
Vosh, what do you think? Do you think Dusty Cocktail is a beautiful bird?
I think cockatiels are beautiful. I'd choke on one any day.
Oh, it's right there. Vosh wins that argument. He thinks he's more beautiful than V. I understand you having to get a little cockatiel pick to make your choice, but Vosh off the bat was.
V, is it true that you're a furry? People have told me that you're a furry.
I used to be when I was younger.
Furry rights. I'm not one, but furry rights. Wait, what?
That's cool though. There's a lot of furries that watch our show, so
Bernie Sandinista says Bernie Sandinista will destroy all American imperialism. And Swellshank says Tech Syndicate introduced me to DP. Now DP introduced me to Vosh. And Vosh will introduce you to the SJW hierarchy of Bernie Bro 2020.
Vosh will introduce you to a fuckload of really good porn that's kept on his Discord server, okay? That's the real shit. That's the treasure trove.
You got good porn? You got good porn.
My chat cultivates it, okay? They do it all for me. Every day I pick one photo to nut to, and that person gets promoted to mod for the next month.
I'm not a big porn guy, right? I'm not. But my favorite porn is finding porn of like somebody who I didn't know had porn out there, like somebody I met outside of porn, and then I find porn of them, and I'm like, oh, I should not.
Did that happen to you?
And that turns you on?
I'm not even turning me on. I just love it. Like today, I found porn of somebody who I had no idea had porn out there, and I was like, "Oh shit!
Oh shit!"
And like
the only time that happened to me is when I found porn of the Amazing Atheist.
He Googled his own name, and his mom's videos came.
Oh my god,
Mom! No, my mom's a sweetheart, and they didn't have easy video recording back when she was in her peak. So I don't think there's a.
She paid big bucks for that recording.
My friend's mom. My friend's mom did do a porn, and we found out about it. She did a porn, and we didn't like. She like admitted to it. She's like, yeah, when I was, because she did it like back when they had fucking film reel and everything.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, I did a porn.
I love the music in the old porns. That's just great.
Yeah.
There are actually a lot of things that I miss from like older porno reels. Okay, you know what my big fucking thing is? They were never soft penises in modern porn anymore. Every single fucking time the dude gets his dick out, it's already rock fucking hard. I want to see like the girl, bro. I'm pan. I don't give a fuck. I want to see that dick get choked on. It's like the magic act where you put the little floppy dingo in your mouth and then you like pull and you pull out like the 9-inch donko. That's what I fucking miss. Nowadays, it's always like the girl walks in with her tits out and then the guy pulls the sweatpants down. He's already hard. That's fucked up. We're missing a very important component.
There was so much bush back in the old porn too, like bush galore, all kinds of it.
I always feel like, should I feel bad that I'm dick hard when I'm ready to go and there's no softie played with?
Do you know there was a wig for the bush like back in the old day, and we're talking about like 100
it's called
years ago?
A merkin.
Yeah, it's a merkin.
It's like if people would have lice and they would have to, shave, then they would have like this wig that they would put instead.
Do you know what we call the pubic lice in the United States? We call it crabs.
That's hot.
So that's interesting.
We do with crabs in the United States? We crack them and eat them with butter.
They're doing the dance on your pubes the whole time.
Yeah, not pubic crabs, but
all right. So are we done with these?
Yeah. Well, we were, but then we got a couple more in Ciancias.
I'm gonna take a pee then really fast.
Force feminize me, force feminize me, force feminize fascists, force feminize right wingers, force feminize Crowder, force feminize everyone. And then Bernie Sandinista said, Vosh, would you let Eero Zappelli give you a kiss? And that's
all right. So I think Vosh was going to get into there are no genders. Gender is not real. I think that's what he was about to get into.
I'm down here for anything. Listen, I'm having a good old time. I'm sweating like a fucking pig because it's like 85 degrees in my apartment and my seat is just made of like shit faux leather. So I'm here for anything. We can talk about our day.
Yeah. How hot would you say it is outside there?
It's not even. It's like 20 degrees cooler outside. I live in the Pacific Northwest. My shit-ass apartment doesn't have AC. It's like a fucking hotbox in here. And I'm a big boy, I'm cooking off a lot of heat. I'm fuming. I'm radiating. I'm burning 1,000 calories a minute. Just bringing that heat out into the world. It's so fucking hot.
I'm back.
Amazing.
Yeah. Being in a room with a computer really heats things up too. This room gets hot too.
It's like a
Depends
fucking
on your
monster.
rig. Yeah, if you have like a good graphics card, can go really hot.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have 2 of them, and then all there's a lot of monitors and stuff. Like every piece of electronic equipment makes some sort of heat. So when you have a whole bunch, and then you add people to the mixture, it creates a lot of heat. But it's okay right now because I have a window fan blowing the cool air from outside in here because I'm in the Pacific Northwest too, and it's pretty cool outside right now. It was like overcast today. See, now we're talking about the weather. Everyone's friends now.
I want it to be known that Jiro Sapelli, I absolutely would let him give me a kiss, even with his grills. Do y'all watch JoJo?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, it's a JoJo reference. Yeah.
I think that's an anime, right?
Yeah, it's an anime adaptation. Well, it's a currently running anime adaptation of a manga series that's been running for like fucking like 30 years. It's wild. It's some good shit. I don't know if you're like into manga or anime in general, but if you are, that's one of the like foundational like building blocks of being in a fandom.
Are we talking about Cory in the House?
So
I'm talking about Dragon Ball or Sailor Moon.
I'm 38 and I was into anime when I was in high school and maybe like my early 20s, and I did read some crazy manga too. And we actually talked about this. There was this Hulk Hogan manga that had almost nothing to do with Hulk Hogan except for like the characters from wrestling were part of it. But Hulk Hogan's like naked all the time and his dick is like bigger than his legs and it's like dragging on the ground all the time. Yeah, it's I recommend everyone.
Did you read the AOC comic book?
Oh god, I've heard of it.
I saw Nancy Pelosi naked, and I don't want to touch a comic book in my life again.
Whoa, are we being ageist in
like
here?
They go to the shower, and it has Nancy Pelosi in the shower naked. Like Google it.
Are we being
AOC comic book?
We're being ageist here. Wow, I didn't know we were counting out some pogs, some fat ass white girls, some milfs, some gemilfs.
Well, all I'm saying is bouncing on my dick is a privilege, not a right.
Ooh, racist. I've always been pro what do you want to call it? Grandma dummy thick. If like Angela Lansbury turned me on that one night.
Yeah, we played this very like it was almost erotic video of Angela Lansbury.
Like I don't recommend this for everybody, but if you're ever watching Golden Girls reruns, masturbate through it and see which one you pop on. Like when you finally pop, see.
Listen, can we be real? Listen,
you let it loose.
When the dummy thick grandma booty like riding you, and the way because the skin elasticity is down, so it's like two like curtains that are slapping against one another. That's the real shit right there. That audio play, that really gets me going.
It's like when you go through a car wash and those fucking flaps come down over the car.
Oh my god!
Except instead of soapy suds, it's dusty fucking muff.
All
right, we have to change. My chat's gonna revolt. My chat is full of babies.
Okay,
sorry, chat.
All right. So you want to talk about the?
I found the picture. Show it to the chat, please. Hold on.
All right, wait. Yeah, I want to see it. I want to see it.
Let's see.
Hold on.
Whoa!
Oh, shit!
Hold on.
Is this the fucking cipher? Holy shit!
No, it's what happens when Google doesn't render properly. Let me see if I can get it one. There we go.
All right. Let's see.
I'm ready.
Damn,
that's like, hot as fuck, chat.
Hold on, I'll put.
People are wrong.
Let's see. There we go. What is this? Oh, it's Nancy Pelosi.
American. Grossy Pelosi got abs.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, she's fucking it up.
Now, come on. That's trans rights right there.
Nah, dude, she's just fucking
yoked. A woman like that can be more cut than every fucking Republican male you've ever seen.
Do you know how much muscle you build up desperately trying to pull the Democratic Party to the right? Okay? You get a lot of muscle that way.
Ooh. Nancy Dummy Thick over there.
Yeah, I was so disappointed when they brought her back in. We had enough of her already.
You can never get enough of that fucking old school institutionalized democracy.
Democracy.
Amazing.
I mean, that's not even democracy. She was appointed by her party to become Speaker of the House again.
Democratic bureaucracy is what I meant to say.
Sure.
I fucking hate her. I mean, we all probably know that, right? We don't have to like.
I think she's kind of cute though when she talks with her slur, and everybody thinks she's drunk, but she's probably just been hit over the head a couple of times.
Bell's palsy or something.
I don't know. Like you imagine, she's probably been like hit with some Agent Orange, right? She's that close.
She didn't go to Vietnam.
Well, yeah, but they use that like in circulation to shut people up when they've seen too much. She probably saw the aliens at Area 51, right? Like she did a Naruto run in there with her old ass.
You know what? Billy always talks about Yang all the time, and I think I think he's only memeing. I don't think he really supports Yang.
100%, I support Yang because I don't give a shit about this divisional fucking politics. I care about the ideas, and he's bringing a new idea to the table that we really have to address.
It's not really a new idea, though.
It's something we have to address. And win or lose, I think that he's gonna champion fucking UBI a little further than it would have been beforehand.
I fucking hate Yang. Oh no. Wait.
Is it because he's Asian?
Yeah. Oh. Wait. How'd you know?
Damn.
Don't get me canceled again, please.
Please don't, Vosh. We want you back.
Yeah.
Fuck me. God damn it. Wait.
Is he not animated enough for you?
Yang Gang? Yeah, I was disappointed. I thought that our first main runner Asian presidential candidate was going to be wearing a Naruto headband, and now that he's not, honestly, I don't even know what the fuck to believe anymore.
He's good at math, though.
Do you know there's a guy in Japan who ran on a platform, like the sole platform was freedom of creativity for anime, and he won.
I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Japanese politician, and apparently, like in Japan, there were rules that they were trying to crack down on anime, like legislation, like you can't do this, you can't make that. And he just ran on a platform that he said, everything goes in anime. Like, if you can create something, you put it on a piece of paper, and if it sells, it sells. And he actually managed to win.
I'm here for the controversial takes. I don't think, for example, that drawn child pornography like Shota or Lolly or whatever should be illegal. I'm pretty radically free speech in that respect. I don't know if this is tangentially related to that. I was just throwing the hot takes that I have.
The Supreme Court of the United States ruled that an exception to free speech is obscenity. And what's really weird about it is that a judge who looked at a trial said that I can't articulate what is obscene or not. It's just what, if I see something, I'll be able to rule on it. So, I kind of understand the argument for banning it because it's obscene. I generally just don't care about it. But I can see both sides of the issue, basically.
Yeah, I'm just, as an anarchist, I'm not comfortable with giving the state the power to criminalize, a drawing. Whatever social consequences might emerge from the existences of those drawings, in my mind, it pales in comparison to the bad precedent it sets for the state to be able to leverage that authority. Yee! I'm just not here for that shit.
What if you drew Muhammad as a child naked?
Don't think that should be illegal either. Maybe slightly more contentious. How do we feel about the Black 007 coming up?
I don't female 007.
Oh, I could go at a tangent about that.
Oh, wow, we can't do both. I was mad that she was female. You guys are mad that she's black. Racist.
Yeah, dude, it's great. People find all sorts of reasons to complain about this shit. Yeah. Wait, how do we feel about that? I'm unironically hyped. I mean, Bond films are trash anyway, but
I honestly,
I don't watch Bond. Yeah. I couldn't care less.
I watched the first one with Daniel Craig because I thought he was great in Layer Cake. And I haven't seen any of them since. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care when
they made Nick Fury black, so I don't care about this. And I mean, I'm more of a Marvel fan.
Wasn't Nick Fury black in the Ultimates in the comic book?
Yeah, in the Ultimates, but they've actually based Nick Fury after.
He was literally Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, they literally just drew Samuel L. Jackson.
I can go on a tangent. So, for example, in the case of James Bond, I guess it makes sense story-wise that it could be like another spy that takes the title because it's 007 is just that. But I hate it when they have a movie and a character is of a particular race and for no apparent reason, it has nothing to do with the story or anything, it just race swaps it. And what I've noticed is that they do this as a marketing ploy more. It's in order to be able to deflect criticism. Like if someone says, yeah, I think this movie is shit, it's like, it's because you're a racist, isn't it? And it's also most movies that do this and they put it up front, like, yeah, we're doing this because, it's a diversity, it's a main selling point. It turns out that the movie is not so good. It's almost like when a studio knows that a movie is going to fail because the script is bad, because, the action is shit. They pull this trick out of the box. in order to get people to be defending the movie or view it as like some cultural anthem that they need to defend. Meanwhile, movies that don't do this, like for example, Black Panther. Like Black Panther wasn't just screaming from the bottom of its lungs. It's like, oh yeah, it's going to be the most diverse movie ever made. No, it was just a movie that had a decent story. People went to watch it, and it was successful. Meanwhile, things like female Ghostbusters that just emphasize it's like, oh yeah, it's Ghostbusters, but with women now. Like women are going to be there. Ends up being shit. And I see this so many times that I'm starting to make a parallel.
I don't think anyone was in favor of how Ghostbusters marketed itself, but you can't deny that people throw a fit pretty much any time. There's like a mainstream representation of a marginalized community. We saw this in Battlefield 5 with the woman on the cover. We see it here. Black Ariel, the Little Mermaid. In this instance with the 007. And then a lot of people there will be like this huge like backlash against it. And there'll be people on 4chan, YouTube being like, this is political correctness gone too far. All the white people are being bred out. We've seen plenty of that, especially with this new 007 thing. But then when things calm down a little bit, people will like back up and try and like gaslight all of that as people just being like, oh, people are just tired of manipulative marketing pushes. Like, no, people just don't like black people or women.
I see it on both sides of the fence. For example, there is the actress that played in the last Avengers, Iron Man's daughter. A lot of people from the left on Twitter were attacking the actress, which is a child, because they thought that she's going to play as the new Ironheart, which is supposed to be black. Another example would be when Disney tried to cast Aladdin. A lot of people from the left were really upset that Jasmine is half English, half Indian, and apparently that's not the correct ethnicity for Agrabah. Another example would be Doctor Strange. Apparently the trader from Doctor Strange was white, and she was supposed to be Tibetan. So, both sides.
Yeah, well, there's a difference in those two things. Like, there's a reason why those are different examples. Because when the right gets angry about it, it's usually because they fucking hate women and black people. And when the left gets angry about this stuff, it's usually because the identities or exposure of marginalized communities is being written over. It's like the whitewashing thing, right? So, like, while I agree that both people on both sides take issue to different extents about, like, ethnicities being swapped around or whatever, it doesn't change the fact that there are different motivations.
See, I would agree with this if there was major complaints about Blade back in the day or The Matrix by having Morpheus. And a lot of people on 4chan, they like Morpheus and have memes with him and stuff like that. I think people are more upset when you take an IP and you change things to it. Like if you were to change Superman's costume and make it different, you'd have people that complain. If you were to change Green Lantern and, make him put yellow color instead of green, you'd have people complaining. So if you have people complaining for that by
yellow is Green Lantern's weakness, so I can understand why that'd be dumb. But
yeah,
but like in this instance, like no, people are being bigots about it. It's not just when change happens, and when the change does happen, it's not just people disagreeing with the change. People are specifically talking about, like, so if you go into the Nazi spheres, they're talking about the global, like, hegemonic Jewish conspiracy to promote cultural degeneracy of race mixing and what have you, and feminism to eradicate white people. But then if you go, like, a little bit farther to the left than that, into, like, the far-right reactionary spheres, they're talking about how SJWs are, like, totalitarians who want to obliterate all white men. Like, a lot of this discourse is coming from people who are very specifically upset about the racialized or gendered aspects of these, like, changes in identity, and that's what I want to talk about. There are always going to be fanboys.
People as a moral compass, like, I don't think I should hire a Nazi representative to tell me what he thinks about issues, so I can think the opposite way. I can tell you why I think it's bad. Like, there's this TV show adaptation coming up called The Witcher. Are you familiar with that universe?
Yes, I beat the third game on max difficulty 100%.
Okay, so they decided to race swap, I believe, Triss. They made her black. They decided to race swap the Dryads. They made them black. And, I guess, like, this is to add representation. But here's what would actually make a very interesting story, and I don't think it would be great. In the world of The Witcher, there actually is an African continent. And there are certain bits of lore and pieces of what's happening there, but neither in the books nor in the games do they explore that. So wouldn't it have been more cool if they could have brought, like, a black Witcher from, you know, this African country, and he would have like different spells and abilities, and, you know, he would come with a different culture. Or maybe, you know, one of the main characters would have been poisoned or sick, and the cure would have been to go into this African continent and find some monster that they could use a reagent in order to create a cure. Like, that would have made for a much more interesting story than to just take a character that people are familiar with them being white, and it's like, oh, no, now it's black. It's like, what are you adding to the story? You know, like, what exactly are you doing rather than just...
Well, wait.
Sorry,
really quick, we gotta call out.
Sorry,
PT
we just got a huge
He
donation.
just flexed on us with
$346 from PT Ham.
Gave us our
Thank
goal.
you, sir.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, sorry.
Damn, chat, step it up. I want my fucking 350.
Vosh, here's the problem, Vosh. You don't fucking scam like us.
It's true. I don't shill hard enough. I need that 3-minute intro.
That's, you know what? We'll give you a consultation. We'll figure it out.
Teach me your ways.
Be in the area eventually,
when you come to Seattle, we'll give you a one-on-one scam situation.
Yeah. I'll
fill me a bottle of that scam juice. So listen, I don't know much about the specifics of the way in which they're dealing with racial integration in The Witcher. I've read some things that I think are fine, and I've read some things that look a little bit like weirder. I don't really know much about that, but I take issue with what you said earlier. You said that you don't like go to Nazis to find your moral compass, and I didn't.
Yeah, I generally don't.
Well, yeah, I didn't accuse you of that, but these people, not necessarily just Nazis, but far-right reactionaries, have a very real impact on discourse. People like, for example, Stefan Molyneux or Sargon of Akkad or James Alsop or other very far right-leaning people. These people have a massive influence on public discourse, and when they approach issues like this, they have a very specific issue with any changes which lead to the inclusion of more women or people of color or whatever. And I think that leads to some pretty toxic cultural discourse. I mean, I've seen a lot of racist-ass shit about the Bond thing, and a lot of people talking about how all white people are going to get obliterated from media soon. When I talk about changing people's races in media, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think that it depends on the consequences. Right now, we have an overrepresentation of white people, straight people, men, cis people, whatever. They're sort of leading the blockbuster. So when there are change-ups to sort of subvert that a little bit, like 007 being made black or a woman, I don't really mind because I don't feel like it's coming at the expense of the representation of a group of people. But if we take black people and make them white, it's kind of fucking weird because we usually don't do it in a way that substantively affects the narrative. We usually do it just kind of to erase them.
I mean... Yeah, no, I get what you're meaning.
Hold on a second. Let me just say something really quick. You know, I don't even know if the people who are really complaining about this even really understand, because it's my understanding that it's not James Bond that they turned into a black woman. It's the storyline where 007, the spy designation, becomes a black woman's spy code or whatever. Is what I understand, right?
But what I wanted to say is that when I say that, I don't think my moral compass...
It's not that weird. It's not like they changed the actual character at all.
But really quick, I think it's kind of weird that they're going to get Scarlett Johansson to play the Black Bond. That's kind of fucked up.
Okay, so my point is that, you talk about Stephen Molyneux. It's like, I wouldn't go watch a movie because Stephen Molyneux hates it. And at the same time, I wouldn't not watch a movie because Stephen Molyneux likes it. I don't take Stephen Molyneux's opinion into context when I decide if I want to see something or not.
Not you.
Secondly,
but...
yeah, I mean, I think, everyone should just look at a movie, see if the story is interesting, if they like what is being presented in the trailer, and go watch a movie regardless of what other people say, And if you have opinions on the trailer, you should voice them out regardless of what other people think. But, regarding representation, I'm going to do something that you don't like and point to other nations. If you look at Bollywood, for example, they take a lot of American films like Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, and they replace them with Indian actors. China does the same with Chinese. Japan does the same with Japanese. And if you have a couple of, white people, most of them, in Hollywood at least, if you look, they're Jewish. I have no problem with that. But I wouldn't say, we need less Jewish people in Hollywood because they're overrepresented or something. If someone has the money and the finance to make a movie, they can cast whomever they want. My problem isn't if they want to cast additional black people. My problem is when instead of creating new characters and interesting stories, they just do this pandering. It's like, oh, look how progressive we are. Please defend our movies from the evil critics because we now decided to cast a black person Superman, for example.
You just made two contrary arguments. You said that if these people have money and if they want to make movies, they can cast whoever they want. But then you said you don't like it when they do that if they don't justify it hard enough.
No, they can do it. Like, I'm not going to advocate for these movies to be banned, but I personally am not going to see them.
Okay, I understand that, but I wasn't talking about the box office revenue of these movies. I was talking about racists and sexists online using the existence of these movies as a talking point to further their radicalizing agenda. Like, I don't really care if the movie fails. I don't give a fuck about Hollywood.
Yeah, but that's the thing. A lot of these critics don't care if the movie fails. And when a movie fails, a lot of actors are not going to get further jobs. Like, a lot of livelihoods are going to be ruined, even though it's just a movie. And what really sucks is when they do a remake of an IP that you like, if the remake doesn't do well, then you're not going to see any more of that IP for a while. So yeah, I do care in a way because I like being entertained, and the people who make movies put a lot of effort in it. But my point is that I didn't see these controversies and these racist and sexist back in the day when you had Eddie Murphy, which used to be one of the most famous comedians, or you had.
Yeah, it's changed. The internet didn't even exist back when Eddie Murphy was like a big mainstream star in Hollywood. I don't I don't understand what you mean. Like, because you don't remember people being racist back then means it's not an issue today. I agree that sometimes movies approach this in like a weird, bad way. I'm not like defending corporations here. Only that a lot of people will use the inclusion of these minority groups in media to justify the promotion of an agenda which is inherently bigoted. And that's a real issue. You pointed earlier to 4chan. I mean, it would not take long for me to go to 4chan and find something deeply racist about, say, the new 007. That'd be an easy find. And it wouldn't just be one person, it would be an entire thread dunking on it.
Vosh, do you think that people are more racist on 4chan because they know it triggers people and they're trolls and they're just trying to trigger people and they're using racism as a tactic to trigger?
No, yeah, that is everywhere.
No, I don't believe that exists.
You don't believe that they're not using it just to fucking trigger people?
No.
I think they're trolls.
It's an easy troll too.
I think they're not racist. I think they're literally just using it.
Listen, the kind of jokes that you find funny tends to be indicative of your political opinions. So it's very rare for a person to go online.
There are some people who get off on negative.
Yes, and a lot of these people are racists. Yes, I don't think that being a racist or being I'm trying to answer the question. I don't think that being a racist or a sexist is like this mythical, like super bad mark against your character that like it's a very rare thing. I think that most people are bigots. Even I, to an extent, carry internalized bigotry from the society whose values were ingrained in me growing up. So I think most people, especially most white people, are racist. Yeah, it's whatever. It's a white boy, cis boy, whatever. So
I can tackle this.
I just want to say, I don't think it's possible to like go on the internet all the time and make jokes that are racist and constantly like, haha, poo in the loo, shit in the streets, like, black people, what's the difference between a pizza and a black person? A pizza can feed a family of four, like, and do all these racist jokes and haha, trigger the libs or whatever, to do that over and over, to find it funny and engaging, and then go home and be like a perfect progressive. I don't think that's possible. The kind of jokes we make and the kind of jokes we find funny are indicative of our political values. So
what if someone thinks like a movie like Blazing Saddles is funny? Are those like racist?
Hold on, because I want to tackle this a little bit.
I got
those are racist jokes in a way too.
No, Blazing Saddles was progressive for its time. Back in the 1980s, it was
written by Richard Pryor, sure,
But going back to this thing where you're saying that people can't use these jokes and be progressive or whatever in their regular life, that's one argument. But I really believe that a lot of people are using these jokes because they found an exploit, and they're exploiting people's concern, and they know people are concerned about it, and they're doing it as breaking the exploit of these people will react, and trolls drive for that reaction, and they will do whatever they can because they're anonymous and they know they can fuck with somebody and get that reaction. I know a lot of trolls.
Exclusive though. A lot of the people who do that are racist. Yeah, I know these types of people. I grew up with these types of people.
Can I come in for a little bit? The word racism, like back in my day, you needed to put a ghost shit on your head and burn a cross or something. Like you needed to do something to prove yourself to be a racist.
That is not what racism has ever meant.
Yeah, but now it seems being a racist means to not like the movie Ariel and not wanting to give Mickey Mouse your money. So, you know, like the word racism is so watered down that
this is
Nancy
such a
Pelosi
boomer
is
argument.
being called a racist. So,
back in my day, racism was when you burned crosses. Nowadays, you're racist for just not liking black people.
It was legitimately something horrible that people did, which is why when you
this
hear
is the same thing as the concentration. You realize this is the same thing as the concentration camp argument. You're like, hey, this can't be racist because racists have done worse things in the past.
Is that I generally don't care when a socialist calls someone a racist because Nancy Pelosi was called a racist.
Yes, so Nancy Pelosi is a racist. Yes,
like, I
easily.
Don't give a shit about the opinion
wait,
of
this isn't.
People,
wait, this isn't an argument.
Like X, Y, and Z is a racist.
This isn't an argument. You were literally just like, racist is when you burn crosses, and I don't care about anything else. Like that's not an argument. We can have it like an enlightened academic discussion about what racism means. If you
do not care when a left-leaning person, especially a socialist, calls someone else a racist because it doesn't tell me anything about.
Yes, this isn't an argument. You're not making an argument.
It's not an argument.
Like, you're just saying like I don't care when they do it because they use it too much. Like I don't know. Do you want to discuss what racism means?
Like to them, everyone is racist. So therefore, I don't care if socialists.
I can't. Like I don't know. Like I don't know if like a friend of yours called you racist and you're still mad or something. Like racism has a definition, but it means more than just burning crosses.
That's the point. Like to me, when I hear Bob is a racist, I need to ask him like, did you hurt a black person or did you not want to go see Ariel?
You can be racist
what type
without
of racist
hurting
are you?
a black
Like
person.
The type that actually doesn't like black people because they're black, or did you just not want to give your money to a multi-billion-dollar corporation?
Like you're in histrionics right now. You're like, they'll say it to anyone. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. We can talk about what it means. I don't know why you're talking past me to say that it means nothing.
No, to me it means nothing. Like I legitimately, personally.
So you don't believe the word racism means anything?
Not anymore. If not going to Ariel and not liking, a kids movie means you're a racist.
Nobody literally listen. I am not going to watch the new Little Mermaid. I'm not racist.
Well,
nobody is saying that makes you.
You don't want to watch a black.
Literally
Ariel.
nobody. Literally no one is saying this. You're acting like a fucking child right now.
So if I bring you examples of people,
you're unironically embarrassing me right now. I'm cringing over here.
Vosh, when Trump attacked all those congresswomen and said that they should go back to where they came from, was that racist?
Yes. When you're telling U.S. citizens who were born in America that they need to go back to where they came from, the only way that would make sense is if you were targeting them for their race. Yes, absolutely.
So when he calls white people in Somalia, like you see, this is the thing. Like I agree that is not presidential to say something like this, right? And he didn't say
no. It's not just not presidential. It's racist. It's not only racist. It's fascist as well.
Hold on. He said, go back to your country, fix it, and then come back. People don't actually say that they should also come back, right? Like
it's not their country.
No, that literally fucking means. Wait. Can we all take a second to appreciate the fact that V just said what Trump did wasn't racist? Because he said after you've gone back to your countries and fixed it, you can come back.
Their ancestors came from our ethno states.
Wait, V, we didn't take a second to appreciate how stupid what you just said was. I think that you of all people would want to give this some space.
How is going to Mexico racist? Is Mexico an ethno state?
Jesus Christ. How is going to Mexico racist? That's what this is about. Going to Mexico's right? Yep, that's what libs do. They find people who are touring to Mexico and they're like, "You're racist." Fuck off, mate. Come on. You know perfectly well the reason it was racist.
Explain to me what it has to do with
ethnicity, I will explain to you, and you need explanation, so I'm happy to help. So first of all,
if you tell me go back to Romania, would that be a racist statement?
I thought I was supposed to be explaining it to you.
If I'm in America and you say go back to Romania, would that be a racist statement?
If you were born in America, yeah.
Yes.
If you were born in America, telling you to go back to Romania because you're Romanian, yes.
Towards what race is it racist?
Wait, I can't. You're like talking over my answers to your
questions.
The
word racist implies race. If I was born in America and my parents were from Romania, and you say go back to Romania, towards what race are you being racist?
Okay. I don't know what you look like. I know that there are ethnic Romanians. You're white. Okay, then it would be xenophobic or bigoted.
And there you go. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Okay. Well, then the four people he targeted. All right, let's call. Well, hold on. Because you're saying so many really stupid things, and each one of them could take up the contents of an entire 3-hour podcast. But first of all, okay, you're saying that it's not racist because Trump said they can come back after going back to where they came from is actually hysterical and deserves no comment.
No, I didn't say that's not racist because of that. I said it's not racist because the countries they came from are not ethno states.
For two, that's literally irrelevant. If you look at a United States citizen who was born in America and you tell them to go back to where they came from because they're not white, and all of the people he did this to were non-white.
No,
please, buddy, please.
But you're wrong. You're
let me
saying
finish a point here. Please, let's just finish a point. So, if you're taking a look at brown people, and you're saying, go back to where you came from, in response to them criticizing the United States of America, what you are essentially saying is that any time a person who isn't white criticizes this country, their perspective is invalid and they should return to a country they may have never even visited because they are not white. This is the easiest definition of racism that I have ever, this is like sleepwalking racism. I could make this argument with Vosh could make this argument. And the fact that you're defending it because the countries they were told to go back to aren't ethno-states is the weirdest non sequitur I have ever heard. What? Telling brown people to go back to where they came from when they were born in America isn't racist because Mexico isn't an ethno-state? I am actually... V, I think you did it again. I think you won this argument again.
Now and explain to you what I think.
You won the argument again because I literally have no response to that.
I know you are baffled because you have a smooth brain and you go like, what? All right.
Yeah.
Trump
explain
didn't
it
say
to me.
Go back.
Wait, you have to explain it to me in a way. You have to, in order for it not to be racist, you have to explain it to me in a way that doesn't involve race. Yeah, you have to explain it to me in a way that doesn't involve race. For it not to be racist.
I will. Can I explain it to you now?
Yeah, sure.
Will you allow me?
Yeah.
All right. He didn't say brown people need to go back to the country. That's what.
No shit, dumb fuck. He wouldn't say that.
I genuinely can't get the words, and then when you start talking and I talk over you, it's like, oh, don't interrupt me.
I mean, just go as long as you can without saying something stupid.
All these four women, what they have in common is that they are incredibly far to the left. They are so far to the left.
They're not incredibly far to the left.
The rest of the Democratic Party can't follow them.
They're not incredibly far to the left.
And when Trump said that go back to your country, he was referring go back to socialist countries, which are way shitter than the United States. Fix them and come back.
All right. Yep. No, he won this argument again. Yes. When Trump pointed out the four brown women, 3 of whom were born in the United States of America, and told them to go back to where they came from. Yes, he was referring to socialist countries.
He didn't even name
even
them.
though
they identified themselves. They put the shoes.
Come on. Hold on.
It's not my fault that 4 women played Cinderella.
So yes, when Trump said, so let's finish because I'm done after this because this is hysterical to me. When Trump said that these 4 women should go back to the countries they came from, even though 3 of them were born in the U.S. and the 4 of them are brown, and he has a history of making racialized comments, and nothing about the statement that he was making had anything to do with socialism. Yes, it's actually because of socialism. You're right. He was telling them to go back to socialist countries, even though they were born here, and even though the countries their ethnicities came from weren't socialist. No, I'm sorry. Mexico is wait, what?
Well, you're picking the only one that, injected herself in the conversation.
You have no idea what you're talking. You would say anything to avoid the accusation that this is racist. Man. Wait, I'm sorry. I understand hosts that impartiality rules here, but can we agree? Yeah. Can you look me in look in my deep pearly blues, okay? Look me in the eyes and let's acknowledge this. You don't have to say it was right or wrong. The idea that Trump was saying, go back to your socialist countries, and that has nothing to do with race, is actually a joke. And that's funny.
That never dawned on me because he said nothing about socialism.
He literally said nothing about it, but there were tons of racialized connotations, both in how he's discussed these 4 in the past and in how his fan base interpreted it. This was very obviously a racialized statement. I mean, V, if you want to argue from fantasy, if you want to fantasize that it wasn't racist. Right? So, this is why, by the way, but just really quick, because I'm done after this. This is the last thing I need to say. Okay. This is precisely why I don't need to argue the definition of racism with people like this, because their goal in arguing is to obfuscate the definition to the extent that it becomes meaningless and they can get away with whatever they want. So when you're saying racism is when you burn crosses, but by the way, the president telling brown people who were born in this country to go back where they came from isn't racist. The goal there is to obfuscate the definition of racism so you can get away with anything. And that's cool, and it would would work if my audience was like 60 IQ, but thankfully I've led them up a little bit better than that. So they recognize, as I do, and as I hope many of the people watching do, that this is a ludicrous non sequitur that has absolutely nothing to do with the broader argument.
But to say go back to Mexico is racist, what race is Mexico, man? You still haven't told me. Like, what? That you say that I take the word too literally and I obfuscate. All right, fair enough. Don't you think you take the way too loosely to the point where even Mexico is not a race? Like, you don't even have to have an ethnicity involved in order for something to be racist.
I mean, I'm good. It's literally like talking to a wall. You have no.
All right, and I want to say to go back to your country thing. I find it very interesting because it's an insult that only Americans have it, and I legitimately like try to find out why other countries don't have this. And when you say to someone, go back to your place, it actually comes to the founding of America, because you had different Europeans from different nations with different cultures that were at war with each other for thousands of years. And you have all of them now living into this new place. So you have to create a melting pot. You have to create an American culture where everyone speaks English and everyone has the same values. So you don't turn into a mini Europe where people just go to war, right? So when someone didn't integrate, when someone refused to learn English like I do, for example, they would say, go back to your country if you don't like it here, right? So when you say go back to your country, it actually means, can you please integrate? Can you please stop trying to bring socialism into the most capitalistic nation on earth?
But how is them?
Wait, host, my dear host, my beautiful host.
Travel back to your country.
My beautiful host of the Drunken Peasant Contrast. This person's mind, V's, is a tumor, and the more we engage with it, the more it spreads. It's like picking out a rash. I suggest we move on to the next point or wrap up to our conclusions, because this is incredibly boring. I might as well be arguing with like a bot that like summarizes arguments from like Fox News comment threads. There's literally no point in discussing it with this person.
Well, Vosh, really quick, you were saying that earlier that all the actions were racist, but more specifically
which action
that Trump. The Trump saying go back to
his comment.
The comment of Trump saying go back to your country or whatever, leave America, all that bullshit. He said that was racist, but more specifically when he called Omar or alluded to Omar being a brother fucker.
That was really weird.
Was that racist, knowing Trump himself has gone on the record saying how fuckable his daughter is?
Listen. Maybe Trump meant it as a compliment. Maybe he's actually got an eye out for his incestuous kin. But in terms of the
not
Omar,
all of his daughters, right? Only the hot one.
Well,
because he's got another daughter that nobody ever sees because she's not as hot.
The Omar conspiracy theory, like brother fucker thing, is super weird. My guess is that it's complete bullshit because the people who I've heard like reciting it lie about everything that comes out of their mouth. Paul Joseph Watson, Sargon of Akkad, like all these people, like everything they say is bullshit. So like that's my intuitive sort of response. They've kind of lost my trust on that one, but I want to look into it more. I would be very surprised if there's any legitimacy to it.
Yeah. All right. So any other topics?
No, I think unironically, the only good engagement that I've got from this podcast has been speaking with my beautiful hosts. V is having fun in his own little corner, like scrolling shit on the walls, and that's good, you know. I'm glad V can do his thing in humane conditions and not in the conditions of the concentration camps he wants to keep open.
Well, according to international laws, you need to have concentration camps. So,
V, not defending any of your stances tonight. Do you want to talk some shit back to Vosh? Because he just fucking spit on you.
Well, no, it's just that we have such different principles and way to look at things to the point where even the definition of the words are some things we disagree on.
Never even got to discuss the definition.
He says that I obfuscate the word racism. Like, to me, racism is a person that is incredibly disgusting because he's going to be prejudiced towards people that, for simply the fact that they have a different skin color, right? And you can't escape that. Like, there's nothing you can do in order to change the color of the skin you have. But for Vosh, telling people to go back to Mexico is racist. Or, you have people on the left that consider Nancy Pelosi a racist. And this just waters down the word until you can't distinguish between disgusting people and people that are just anti-socialist, or they're not on board with the far left.
Wait, can I actually ask one question really quick? I'm not even going to insult framed as a question. Okay. So for me, racism is a very ambiguous term that is used to describe sort of social pressures that act to the detriment of racial minorities. Racism isn't like a thing you hold in your heart. It's not like a form of bigotry that you act on. You don't have to know you're racist to be racist. Racism is like a really broad, kind of esoteric, systemic thing that can take a lot of nuance to analyze. And the reason why I use the term racist, the reason why I engage with that terminology, is because right now, racial minorities in this country, pretty fucked. Not as fucked as they used to be, but there are serious problems that can be backed up by data. Redlining and pseudo-apartheid and the average income and blah, blah, blah. We know these things exist.
Income, right? Like it could be a class thing as well.
It could, and there are.
Right?
And there are, well, no, it's not just race, not at all. Class issues are huge.
Yeah.
But even if you control for class, like black people, for example, deal with really specific issues in this country. And when I use the term racist, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to suss out behaviors or patterns of behaviors that act to the detriment of these communities. I'm not trying to morally impugn someone or say that like, oh, they're a bad person, we should never listen to them. What I'm trying to say is they contribute to a broader pattern of racial oppression, which is a complicated and highly academic subject of contention. That's what I use it for. When I think, in my opinion, when you set the bar for racism being like cross-burning and like screaming death to N-words in the street or whatever, like big overt stuff, you catch that stuff and that is racist, yes, but you ignore a lot of really important underlying forms of racism that run through our society today and really substantively affect the lives of people of color.
Well, first of all, I would like to point out that I would rather be a black minority in the United States than be a Romanian. Like you say black minorities in the US have it so bad, but you just don't know how
what
the
does
rest
that
of the
have
world
to
has
wait
it.
Wait, then I would want to fix being Romanian too. Wait.
If you look at the etymology of the word racism, it actually means race, and ism stands for ideology. That's what the suffix is. So it's like an ideology based on race, where you view the world through the prism of genetics. And, you know, like, if you have a different definition, that's fine. But I'm just saying why I generally don't care when a left-wing person...
Fine. That's not the academic definition.
I was wondering...
I tend to use it in an academic way. And also, I don't know what the fuck...
academics, they changed the definition.
No, they don't. Academic racism has had a pretty consistent definition for a long while. I don't know why you'd say that without knowing it. But also, I don't really care if Romanians have it worse. I want them to be better, too. I want everyone to live good lives.
That's what we have to focus on right here. Like, you're saying that V is dumb for making these points, but we're also dumb for going against V on this because he lives in Romania. His idea of racism in America is probably a very Hollywood driven thing. He doesn't understand. Like we in America, racism is different to us. We see it differently than the rest of the world.
It is true.
You know, in America, racism is baked into the fabric of our society. We don't think about it because we're trained not to.
I had a question for V. V, how do you feel about hate crimes? Like, if a crime can be determined as a hate crime, the punishment is worse by default.
I think this is stupid, and I don't know if it's helping. Like, if you punch someone in the face, it's a crime, right? Why does it matter if you punch someone with a different skin color or not? It's still a crime. Like, okay, I don't think...
I can answer this one.
I knew that would happen.
It is because the consequences of these two crimes are very different, and we want to set different levels of disincentivization for these two issues. Punching a person in the face can happen for a bunch of reasons. Maybe there's a bar fight, or you're drunk. Maybe you punch a friend in the face. Or you can just punch a random stranger. There's a lot of variance there. So we use sort of a broad assault or battery term to fit it under. But if you're punching a person in the face because they're a Jew, or because they're black, or because they're a woman, you're no longer just doing the physical harm, you're also reinforcing a broader system of oppression, which carries with it greater social consequences. So in response, the state wants to disincentivize this further by adding the additional charge of it being a hate crime. It's just a consequentialist way of recognizing that these crimes are committed with a greater degree of severity. There's more harm that comes from it.
Well, there's two problems with this. Number one, I noticed you said punching a Jew or a woman or a black. You didn't say punching a white person, and that's funny because there was an article.
I'm fine with. I agree. It's a hate crime if you punch a white person for being white. If you're like fuck you, cracker,
yeah, but there was this black person who punched a white person and said, fuck white people, and he didn't got convicted with a hate crime. Maybe on principle you're okay, but you disagree with this case. That's fine. Yeah. My point is, like, how can you know what goes in the mind of a person when they punch someone else? Don't you think like people are going to jump to the conclusion that just because, I know, a black person punched a Jewish person, it's going to be a hate crime?
You can't know for sure, but you can inductively reason pretty well. For example, if a person is a neo-Nazi and they identify as one, they have a fucking Hitler Youth flag draped across their bedroom, and they make posts on 4chan talking about how Jews are disgusting degenerates that like are controlling the world. Well, hold on, these people exist, and then this person like goes outside and they post to their friends. They're like, "Hey, gonna find one of them," with the echo signs, and then they find a person who's wearing the curly hair things, the fucking rabbi outfit, and they deck them in the face. Now, do we know for a fact that was a prejudice-motivated crime? We don't.
I'm not going to deny that, but you created an example that is so, tailored that it's very difficult to actually find so many cases in your life. But let's say you're in a car, right, and someone cuts you off at the intersection, and you're almost about to hit them, and there's an altercation. Right, and one of the people sees the other is black and wants to insult them, like they really want to, get under their skin and says the N-word. Well, now it's a hate crime, even though the person might not have anything against black people. He just wanted to insult that particular guy. And this goes back to the opening statement that we had in the beginning. Like in America, it's so different from Europe to the point where when you want to offend someone, you have to do the mathematics, and you need to make absolutely sure that when you offend someone, you don't go overboard, but you offend them just as much. I just can't grasp
how often do you
self-defense, right?
Wait, how often do you accidentally commit hate crimes?
Physically, you can't go overboard with self-defense. You can't kill somebody because they punched you, right?
Yeah, wait.
You have to.
Well, V was talking for a second there. V was talking like you have to strike a delicate balance. How often are you assaulting people and like getting told it's a hate crime because you said the N-word?
Well,
I don't think this happens. I don't think I have not. Oh, here, I'll just give a blanket statement. I have not seen any evidence to indicate that at this moment we are over persecuting hate crimes to the extent that non-bigoted people are getting roped in there. I haven't seen evidence to that extent. If I see evidence of that case, then I will reassess my values and advocate for a more sensible change in policy.
I mean, I could give you examples, but you'd say I'm cherry picking.
Like I said, data. It's not
in a lab coat behind me.
Yes. When I'm talking about changing law, I like to go off data, not individual examples. Yes.
I wanted to ask you something because people were like discussing it on Twitter earlier. Are you a doctor?
Yeah, I finished med school.
Okay, so you're a medical doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not practicing right now. I'm focusing on the YouTube channel that I have. Because it pays better than being when I was practicing, the wage is around $300, and you have to work when you're on call. You have to work 32 hours. I'm not even making it up. Like you wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and you work all the way until the next day at around 4 p.m., sometimes even 6 p.m. So not only are you way overworked, the pay is very low. And what I'm doing here is something that I find fun. And if my channel won't work, I'll just go back to practicing medicine.
Damn,
but
dude, sounds like you need socialism. Got to get those wages
up.
No,
it's socialism that kind of fucked up the country to begin with. With Romania had socialism. It went through fascism. It had the Iron Guard. It allied with Nazi Germany in World War II. And after that, it had communism. So we actually had both of them.
I don't suppose I can make a compelling argument that it wasn't true communism.
It wasn't true communism because communism never existed, right? But the reason hold on, let me just put this up. The reason I don't believe in communism is because every time socialism is tried, you concentrate all the power of the state into the hands of a couple of people, which are never going to relinquish it. They're never going to give it up.
I can't have the socialist argument with this guy.
V, when did they start putting religion in public schools in Romania?
Romania never had a separation of church and state, so it always had religion in public schools. If you are of a different faith, it's really interesting because Romania actually has a Muslim religion that's state official. We were conquered by the Turks, the Ottoman Empire, and when we had the War of Independence, there were a couple of Muslims that fled the Ottoman Empire, and they moved into an area of Romania called Dobroja. So the people there, they went to the Romanian king at the time and said, if we're going to fight with you, we want citizenship and we want our religion to be recognized. So they actually built like the first mosque in Romania built by Christian hands. And then it was sanctified by people from Turkey.
Don't they have like Christian prayer in the public schools?
No. You get like when you go to public school, you have a different subject called religion. Very few people take it seriously. If you're a member of a different faith, like for example, you're a Muslim, or let's say you're a Catholic or something like that, they allow you to go to your church and learn religion there. And then the priest or the rabbi or whatever, they will give you a grade, and you come with that in school, and it's recognized as.
What if you don't want to take a religion class at all? Do you have to still?
There's actually a movement right now where they try to take religion out from the schools, but most students don't want that because religion was like really relaxing. People usually did whatever they wanted. Like they didn't actually focus that much. Like they didn't give you homework. If you don't know the religion, they don't give you an F. Everyone got A's. And there were people that were actually skipping school during that time, or they would just talk with their friend or something like that. So it's really relaxing. And the counter argument is that if they would remove religion from school, there would be a lot of people who would lose their jobs. So, it's just, I mean, you don't have to take it seriously if you don't want it. And since there is no separation between church and state here, it's just going to stay.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
We've been hitting it up for a good 3 hours. We should probably have.
I want to interject without any rebuttal from either side. Do you guys have any closing things you want to say? Not about any of this shit, just about yourselves
or anything.
Yeah,
whatever.
anything.
Just
without rebuttal, just straight up. Vosh, you want to go first?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, okay. So like, obviously, I'm Vosh on YouTube or whatever, but like, I think that the left online particularly has done a pretty bad job addressing the problems that we face as a society and also making ourselves palatable to the interests of a broader audience. I'm not perfect by any means, and I'm certainly divisive in some communities, but I'd like to think that if nothing else, I offer a more contentious, a more aggressively facts-based perspective on lefty and progressive topics than most of my contemporaries would, though I fuck up sometimes. But yeah, so that's what I try to do, even in the sweltering, brutal heat of the Pacific Northwest. And I had a lovely time today. I've been like swimming in a pool in myself. You can't see waist below, but let me tell you, it is 100% humidity down there.
When you get here to Seattle, you got to hit us up. We got to show you around a little bit, do something fun. Okay?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Amazing.
And V, anything you want to say to close out?
I want to appreciate that Vosh wanted to have the conversation. I mean, for me, it's difficult to find people that are left-leaning to engage in a debate because it's usually like, no platform for people on the other side and stuff like that. I noticed that we have very different principles, and it's really difficult to talk about policy if we can't understand each other on principles. So a discussion, I guess, between capitalism and socialism would have been better. Because I understand the socialist way of thinking. Like, for example, if you want no borders, you're obviously not going to like the system that America has in place right now. So, like talking about policies, in my opinion, it's not going to end, with any sort of agreement or any sort of common ground. The conversation should be focused more on principles.
I agree. Death to America, comrade. Inshallah.
I want to, I guess, read through Streamlabs now.
Yeah, and if you guys need to go, that's fine. We're just gonna read this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotta go soon, mostly because I'm fairly certain that I'm going to get like my legs are pruning like fucking raisins in the moisture down there. So I'm thank you so much.
Sounds like an Angela Lansbury situation. Should I
One more thing about religion. Someone that's Romanian and follows me asked me to talk about this. During socialism, religion was heavily suppressed. And after communism, basically, because of that suppression, people started being overly religious. And if you were to, like, right now fight against religion, people would view you as a communist, they would view you as a socialist. So, that's another reason why religion is in school.
That's why I was asking you when it started, because you said you were a Soviet satellite state at one point. I was willing to bet much religion there.
Romanian communism would probably blow Vosh's mind out. Like, I think he would call Romanian communist right-wingers. They had no abortion. Like, you weren't allowed to have abortion at all. There were no contraceptives. Women were actually supposed to go for a medical checkup I believe it was once every 5 months or something like that, just to see that they didn't get pregnant. Especially, it would start in schools. Like most women wouldn't even know what sex is. And then it would go on all the way up into work. LGBT was heavily criminalized. It was actually against the penal code to have sex with another man. The border was incredible.
I want to publicly disavow. I as an anarchist and socialist publicly disavow the implementation of Soviet-style communism in both Russia and the satellite states. I'd like to take can we all just take a moment of silence together in remembrance of the last great failed socialist experiment. May we do better next time.
My point is, like, I'm not attacking socialists or whatnot. My point is that Romania was different because it actually focused on nationalism. Like there was, there was big praise for Romania never invading other countries and always having defensive wars, and we weren't imperialist. So there was like this big focus on nationalism that didn't exist in other Soviet states. And also the leader went against Russia, and because of that, he was considered by the West as the good communist. And he actually managed to visit America and Britain and other countries. So, it's very interesting that they also outlawed abortions, which in other places were legal. And, like the implementation is just completely different than in other satellite states.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I'm interested in doing further research on. Okay, I've got to thoroughly discipline my chat for their naughty memes. All right. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on. Before I leave, I got to say 2 quick things. First of all, I love you all very much. Never change. And second of all, can we get together in unison a beautiful trans rights for our trans comrades out there?
Trans rights.
Trans rights.
Trans rights. Trans rights.
Trans rights. Trans rights. That's what I'm fucking saying. All right. Peace out. I'll see y'all later.
All right.
Farewell.
All right. I'm going to read these.
V did not say it. Hold on. I still have the 2 cameras taped together. Fuck me. Oh man. All right. Well, that happened. That was pretty fun. I think I did okay, right? The border stuff isn't really my my focus. It's not something that I have an extensive understanding of, but I think I held my own about as well as I could.